It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. Abrar al-Heeti, Lisa Dedichico, and Dan Patterson join me to talk about the 23rd birthday. Yes, it was today, 23 years ago, that the iPod was born. We'll also talk about the big winners in the 2024 presidential election. I'll give you a hint. It wasn't the president. It was cryptocurrency. And Roblox. Is it a threat to our children or a great way to learn to program? All of that and more coming up next on Twit.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit, This Week at Tech, episode 1005, recorded Sunday, November 10th, 2024. $125,000 in baguettes. It's time for Twit This Week in Tech, the show that covers the week's tech news. And I love this panel. This panel, all of us have either worked for or currently work for CNET. Completely by accident. Abrar al-Heeti is here. She reports on technology for CNET. Hi, Abrar.
Hello, how are you?
Well as one could expect. I'm doing all right.
But
how are you?
You're wearing a fabulous shirt, and I'm jealous that I'm not. And I wish you had told me that you were going to wear a cool shirt, because I would have done the same. But it's
do you have serape-colored clothing?
I really got to step it up next time, honestly.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you, when I was in the studio, I would always wear a blazer and a dress shirt, button-down shirt, and kind of office casual look. Yeah. But in here in the attic, it's so colorful, and I thought, so I have about 40 shirts that a listener has been sending over the years from a store in San Miguel de Allende, Winston Churchill. Amazing. Every few months, I would get a new bunch of shirts, and so I love these shirts. They're very colorful. They're made locally in Mexico with patterns that reflect Mexican culture, and it makes me happy.
It makes me happy too. Thank you for wearing that for us.
Thank you.
Yes. Did you ever wear that on television?
No, they would have stopped me. Yeah. The bosses would have stopped me. That's Dan Patterson. He is editorial director of Blackbird AI and a contributor for ZDNet, which is kind of sort of like CNET. But you worked for CNET back in the day, right?
Oh, I sure did. I don't think I stopped. Like, I went to work for other companies. I left CBS, but I continued to no, you can't stop working for CNET.
Never. Nobody can, because they're so dominant. In fact, Abrar works on the same team as Lisa Dedichico, who's senior editor at CNET. Lisa, we haven't seen you in so long. Hello.
Hello. Yes, thank you guys for having me back. It's been a while.
So long that she lost the microphone.
It's true. It's buried under my piles of gadgets in the basement somewhere. So.
Oh, well, you sound
Next
fine.
time.
It's lovely to see you as well, senior editor at CNET. So it is kind of a alumni gathering. I was talking about this before the show, the fourth employee of CNET, back when it was just Halsey Minor and a few other people. Didn't work out, but that's a long story. We don't need to go into that. You know what today is? Oh, I was going to pull this down off my shelf. Hold on a second. It might be with your microphone in the basement, but let me check.
You're never going to live that down, Lisa. I hope you know.
I know.
This is a recurring joke.
I know. I did this to myself.
Wow. This iPod turned 23 today.
Wow.
The vibes and the feels.
I bet you Abrar and Lisa don't even remember the first iPod.
I remember I couldn't afford it. I was like in probably sixth grade at the time, but I remember it was like what the rich kids had.
Oh yeah.
But I did get an iPod Shuffle a couple of years later, and that was my starter Apple device.
Oh yeah, the chewing
I also
gum.
could not afford one, but I had a Dell Pocket DJ instead.
Oh Lord, that's awful. I'm so sorry.
Leo, I bought an iRiver H140 because you could plug a microphone into the top, and thus began my podcasting career in 04.
You were podcasting off the iRiver. Yeah,
That's
this
right.
was not
100%.
my first MP3 player. I had something called the Diamond Rio before this.
Yeah, that thing was awesome.
Yeah, and it played Audible books, which is the main reason I got it. I had spent years commuting 2 hours, sometimes 4 hours a day to CNET. I'm sorry. ZDTV, which kind of was CNET. Anyway, it's a long story. It's very incestuous. But anyway, and that commute almost killed me. So I was listening to books on tape, but they came in boxes of cassettes. And when Audible came along and said, oh, you know, you don't have to have a box of cassettes. You just need an MP3 player. I thought, oh, this is great. This was, remember, Steve Jobs, 1,000 songs in your pocket. And one of the things that made this possible was there was a little hard drive, a little tiny matchbook-sized hard drive inside this, which the manufacturers, I'm trying to remember, was it Canon? Who made that first hard drive? Couldn't figure out where the market was. In fact, that they were close to discontinuing it when Steve Jobs came along and said, we want to make a music player that can hold a gigabyte. And at the time, a gigabyte of flash RAM would have been obscenely expensive. So they found this hard drive and they put it in here, and it became the first really popular. I would say this was Apple's first consumer hit, right? Not the Apple II, not the Macintosh, not the iMac, this.
Because I think it was for everybody, right? It was like, as a child, you'd hear about it, right? Because all the cool kids had one, and it wasn't.
Yeah, all the sixth graders wanted one.
Exactly. It wasn't. Just
and it was like, in the era before, like, you know, cell phones being like, I mean, people had cell phones, of course, but like, I don't know, before the smartphone, I feel like the iPod was like the first like device that you had that you were like proud to show off. Like Abrar was saying, like it kind of made you look cool. Everybody wanted one. I feel like it was like I consider it to be like the first like really like consumer tech gadget that kind of, you know, started the era that we're in today.
Abrar, really for everyone is such a key phrase, because Apple was this cool kind of smaller company, but Apple people were their own. It was its own culture, and it was kind of in its own universe. And the iPod really was for everyone. It made people on Windows want Mac devices or Apple devices.
Yeah. And this, of course, inspired the iPhone in some respects. Remember when Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone in 2007, he showed it with a phone dial on it first. And he said, we've invented an iPod phone. And then he said, no, just joking. And showed the remarkable iPhone in 2007. That was, of course, the biggest consumer hit for Apple. But this is
I thought you were going to say the rocker.
The rocker. Yeah, the Motorola rocker, which predated the iPhone.
It was the first introduction of iTunes on a mobile device.
Yeah. The iPod came out on this day, November 10th, 2001. Wow.
Oh, I totally got my dates wrong then. I'm thinking about, I was not in sixth grade in 2001. I was in first grade. But that sixth grade was the first time I remember people having one. I think that's the difference.
This was ridiculous. Like, this was not, this was I'll tell you, one of the reasons this was a niche product at first is because it only worked with a Mac.
Yeah.
Right.
See, it has a FireWire port on it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So that was...
not for everyone.
Not for everyone. And it wasn't until his employees convinced Steve Jobs that to make iTunes for Windows that it really took off. So this was
and
a
it was
niche
really
product.
For everyone. Yeah.
Then it really was. Exactly.
Yeah.
This was just for the few, the hardy. It was, I think it was Toshiba actually that made the hard drive that made this possible. Anyway, happy birthday to the iPod. And this is a good time to think about your first iPod, to think back in time. I'm glad I kept this, actually. You know what's funny is every once in a while I plug in the FireWire cable and see what I was listening to in 2001, and then I immediately disconnect it and say, oh, never mind. Never mind. I think it was Britney Spears.
I love
Hit
that.
Me Baby One More Time was like...
As it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Britney's still a thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Timeless.
Yeah. It was a 1.8-inch drive made by Toshiba. Thank you, Keith. I think you're right. It was the first. If that didn't exist, this wouldn't have existed. So
it's also the reason this is called a podcast.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Benito, our producer, is pointing out this gave the name to the shows that we do. Podcasting. I never always hated the name podcast because it implied an iPod, and in the early days, you did have to listen to this.
Yeah,
because my first podcast was 2004, 3 years later, and it really was a podcast. It was the only you'd have to download it on your Mac, and then synchronize it using iTunes to your MP3 player, your iPod, so you can listen to it.
You could use others. I had the Juice podcast receiver. That was, I think, Adam's thing. Do you remember like the Podcast Alley and Podcast Pickle Days, and Adam Curry had the Daily Source Code. Dave Weiner had Morning Coffee Notes.
No, I don't remember any of that at all. No, no, of course I do. I was one of the first 10 podcasters in the world. There were many of us.
The listener, you, not the Leo, you.
Oh, I was around back then. I really was. All right, enough memory lane. Apple actually in the news because, without telling anyone, when they released iOS 18.1. They changed the code so that if your iPhone isn't unlocked for a period of time, it switches off, which the police don't like so much because it means the clock starts ticking. When they get an iPhone, they can't, because if it unlocks, you got a problem. The story from Joseph Cox in 404 Media. On Thursday, 404 Media reported police were freaking out about mysteriously rebooting iPhones, which caused iPhone experts to look at the code in 18.1, which came out last week, and say, oh, yeah, this is a new code in, why am I holding that up? I'm sorry. This is new code in the iPhone. I'm confusing the two, which reboots it. This is interesting from Apple.
It's interesting, too, that it mentions the phones communicating with each other and then signaling each other to reboot. That's just...
Oh, I hadn't heard that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I read somewhere that it's in some way they kind of just communicate with other phones and send a signal, and then the others
like
also reboot.
Yeah, I was going to say, I imagine it'd be similar to like how the Find My network works. Yeah.
So what's the theory there? We've been captured.
That sounds like it, doesn't it?
Release us.
This sounds like a Pixar film, guys. This needs to
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't see that. So, has Apple admitted that it's? I think it's finally said, we did that. It is better for your security. Apple can make the case, oh, well, if your phone is stolen and it gets shipped to China, they won't be able to. No, you still have to unlock it, right? What is the theory?
Or subpoenaed?
Yeah. If once it's rebooted, it reboots into a locked mode. I guess one of the problems, and this was first reported in the Wall Street Journal by Joanna Stern, was people shoulder surfing you after you unlocked your phone and noticing your code. No, but that wouldn't work either. It would have to be that you had unlocked it, they grabbed your phone, and then they kept doing this as they ran down the street so the phone wouldn't lock, right? Or the police grab your phone, and maybe the police have some sort of jiggle finger. I'm going up and down on the phone screen.
The cops definitely have a jiggle finger.
They have a jiggle finger, or as it's professionally known, a mouse jiggler. And what keeps the phone from going to sleep. That wouldn't work either. I don't know why would police be upset about this? I don't understand yet. I should have done more research on this story, but it just broke from Semaphore.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a part of Apple's anti-theft measures, but yeah, it's hard to kind of place exactly the benefit of it and how.
And why are police upset?
Yeah, I guess the challenge is the phone locking, like you mentioned. So whether the phone is on or off, it's still going to be locked. So yeah, I don't know. But this does remind me of like a new thing. Speaking of like anti-theft updates, I guess. There's Android 15 also has like a new thing where if your phone is stolen, like if someone swipes it from your hand and like runs off, it can apparently detect that and automatically lock the phone.
Yes,
I have not
that's right.
tried that, thankfully.
Yes.
I haven't had to see whether it works. But
It notices that somebody's running with your phone, I guess.
Yes,
And it's no longer in your
whatever.
possession.
Yeah,
It's
cracks
really
of the law
interesting that Apple would
enforcement.
add these technologies
Yeah.
to the phone.
Yeah, I mean, this as a consumer just gives me a little more sense of ease. Especially you don't have to report someplace where they want to take your phone to appreciate features like this. But even if it's lost or stolen, this gives me a great sense of ease.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you have it. All right. I started with kind of more Toy Story stuff, candy store stuff, because what I am nervous about going forward on Twit. I want people to have a little respite from what has been a very difficult election season. And I think sometimes tech can be that respite. It's fun. It's interesting. There's lots to talk about without talking about politics. There is an intersection, however, between tech and politics. So we have a few stories that are related to the election. I don't want you to experience PTSD or anything. We're going to move through them fairly quickly. This is not a partisan panel, and we're not going to be partisan about it. But there are some stories. You wrote a story for ZDNet, Dan, about how the election will determine tech's future. Now, you wrote this the day before the election.
I wrote it I was working on it in August and September. One of the most interesting things about this story, and this was for ZDNet, and it's about tech policy, not the partisanship.
Right.
And it was one of the hardest stories I've ever written to source. I'm not saying that hyperbolically. I'm sure, Lisa and Abrar, you're pretty familiar with the sourcing process when you're doing a tech story. Often I call people who are kind of in my stable and I try to get first person on the phone and talk. And if that doesn't work, I usually write a 7 to 10 question email and send it to people who are reliable, who I know will who are authoritative and reliable. And in this case, I sent it to, I think, 18 people. I had 2 want to go on record. Everyone else said, this is great. I'm happy to contribute off record. I'm happy to help you understand from our perspective regulation. And some of those people were in DC, but most people were like, look, I'm exhausted. I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah. And imagine how they feel today. I think
That
one
is
thing
surprising, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing the stock market's already kind of weighed in on this. I think it's generally perceived as good for tech. Look at all of the careful CEOs who sent congratulation messages to President-elect Trump, many of them with big exclamation marks. Jeff Bezos, big congratulations to our 45th and now 47th. By the way, interesting, they all used X for this.
Yeah.
Formerly Twitter.
Yeah.
To our 47th president on an extraordinary political comeback, a decisive victory. All of them focused on the future, the prospects for the nation. No nation, Bezos wrote, has bigger opportunities, wishing at real Donald Trump all success in leading and uniting the America we all love. Of course, Bezos told the Washington Post not to endorse Kamala Harris in the days before the election. That probably was even more appreciated by the president-elect. Tim Cook, congratulations, President Trump, on your victory, exclamation mark. We look forward to engaging with you and your administration to help make sure the United States continues to lead and will be fueled by ingenuity, innovation, and creativity. Subtext. What is he really saying in that tweet?
Please be nice to us and don't and don't let antitrust touch us in any way. It's
that's probably good news for the companies, except maybe Google, because I don't think Trump likes Google, but I think most of the companies, Lena Khan's going to be gone from the FTC.
Sure
most companies probably say, good, we can proceed with mergers and acquisitions without being impeded by regulatory bodies, right? Except for the EU.
I was going to say, I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a wave of acquisitions in these next 4 years because for that very reason. There's been a lot of scrutiny on, acquisitions. And I do feel like at this point, I of course, don't know for sure, but I would imagine the thought is, okay, like if we have plans or interests or, companies that we want to invest in or buy, like these next 4 years would be the time to do that because we don't know what's going to happen after that.
Yeah. This is your chance. Big chance right now. Sam Altman. Of course, AI, I think there are a few real beneficiaries. AI and crypto, for sure. Sam Altman, founder and boss, CEO, I guess, of OpenAI. Congrats. It was like, I'm too busy to capitalize. Let me just type this out real quick. Congrats to President Trump. Wish for his huge success in the job. In a follow-up post, he said he forgot the part where you say, oh, America, it's critically important that the U.S. maintains its lead in developing AI with democratic values. I don't know. Did you find, Dan, in your research that the Trump administration would be very pro-AI?
One of the interesting things, the biggest takeaway is that anyone who says they know really does not know. It's difficult to get from the campaign any sense of policy when it comes to AI. And you really do have to just read tea leaves when it comes to the president-elect's past statements. What I found very interesting was the CHIPS Act and this attempt by the Biden administration to reshore a lot of the manufacturing and the technology, the process and the chain. I don't have an indication of what the next president will do with CHIPS Act, but it seems as though that is pretty aligned with much of his rhetoric during the campaign. So
if you're going to make America great again, you've got to bring chip manufacture back.
I would think so. Yeah.
Right. What does that mean? That's Intel and AMD. TSMC is a Taiwanese company, and I think he was somewhat critical. At least he's been in the. Problem is, he's not very consistent. But in the past, he's been very critical of TSMC.
And we'll see what happens there. I mean, that's just a lot of this is so tied to geopolitics that. It's really hard to, without knowing what their policies about China will be, it's hard to get a sense of what will happen with TSMC and Taiwan.
Well, it's hard for us to know what the right thing to do is in general, right? We have close ties to China economically, but they're clearly an adversary politically. Taiwan is a it's an unknown sitting in between the U.S. and China. China wants to take it back.
It's a democracy, and they want to be independent.
Right. But China considers it part of their
just
country.
like Hong Kong, yeah.
Or Russia considers Crimea to be part of their country. Here's Elon Musk's ex. What do you call it? You can't call it a tweet anymore.
It's just a
post, I guess.
Post.
Is it?
That's so boring.
Yeah.
It's morning in America, he says, calling back to Ronald Reagan. That was his campaign slogan. And then a clearly AI-generated picture of Elon saluting the American flag floating high above New York City. I don't know. Since I see the Empire State Building in the back, maybe he's standing on the, I don't know what One World Trade Center. I don't know what he's standing on. It's AI. What doesn't need to be standing on anything. Google's CEO Sundar Pichai, congratulations to President @real Donald Trump. Note, by the way, all of them are adding him on X, even though he posts rarely on X, mostly on his own Trump social. Congratulations to President @real Donald Trump on his decisive victory. We are in a golden age again of American innovation, and are committed to working with his administration to help bring the benefits to everyone. That's interesting. Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft. Congratulations, President Trump. We're looking forward to engaging with you and your administration to drive, innovation. There's a word we haven't heard much, forward, that creates new growth and opportunity for the United States and the world. They all feel like innovation is a word they really want to get in there. Michael Dell, congratulations to President Trump on a successful campaign and election win. We look forward to continued progress and opportunity. Did you mean innovation, Michael? Under his leadership and working together toward a strong and unified future for all. This is just smart business, though, right?
Yeah, we could take a cross-section of CEOs, and they're all executives are going to say similar statements.
In fact, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, kind of like Abrar mentioned earlier, I mean, in their eyes, it's in their best interest to align themselves with whoever's in office because nobody wants to get to be the target of a big antitrust probe because that's been happening a lot in the last like 5 to 7 years, more so than in the decade before that, for sure. And that's one thing that's really been at the top of my mind, especially with a lot of talk and concern about AI regulation and AI being so unregulated. And now that like we're at a point in time where AI is really part of like every single tech product that we actually use. I don't know. It's interesting to see how things will play out. Like Dan said, we just don't know yet.
It's just politic. It's just smart if you're going to do that.
And I think, like we kind of mentioned, Trump's ideas and policies and opinions change a lot. And so I think a lot of these tech leaders believe that if they start now in trying to get along, then it becomes easier for them to achieve whatever their mission is. And so I think that's why we're seeing all these congratulatory posts. And I also saw in that CNBC article that apparently Jeff Bezos has only tweeted twice this year, and both times he's mentioned Donald Trump. So that's kind of telling.
I mean, Bezos and Musk both have space ventures, commercial space ventures, which means there's potentially a lot of money coming from the federal government toward them. I know Bezos would love for Blue Origin to beat SpaceX in this. I don't think they're even close to doing that.
It's very interesting. I mean, we can make jokes about the Washington Post all we want, but it's interesting that Bezos elected to use X as opposed to his own media company to make that statement.
They all used X. Is that really a tacit admission that it's not just Donald Trump you want to court? You want to court Elon Musk as well?
I think I think Threads just kind of sucks. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
It's not going to be Threads Blue Sky, and it's definitely not going to be Mastodon. I understand that.
Oh, what's so interesting about that, though? Let's flash back to 2016. I made a lot of hay back then about Cambridge Analytica and the exploitation of Facebook and the social graph in order to, at the time, there were claims that our behavior can and would be manipulated or was manipulated. And, social media and criticizing Facebook was big business for several years. Now we have just kind of leaned into, okay, this is what happened. We're going to post about it on X.
Yeah, by the way, there was a lot of concern before the election. We talked a lot about it. We had Alex Stamos on, who for a long time ran the Internet Observatory at Stanford, watching election disinformation. There was real concern that AI would really become, I remember this a year ago, we were saying, well, so here's from the Washington Post today, AI, and this is quoting a study from this Institute for Strategic Dialogue. Researchers noted that AI did not sway the election, that people didn't change their minds. And I think this makes sense to me anyway. People didn't change their minds because of disinformation or AI, although it does say it deepened the partisan divide. I think one of the things that, it's my opinion, I'd like to know what you think, memes, tweets, posts do is to confirm it's confirmation bias, to confirm what you already believe.
Yeah.
Or it's a way of showing you're part of the tribe and confirming, that this is what you. Now you Blackbird AI.
This is my day job. Is AI disinformation,
does this, right?
We call it.
So what's your opinion on all this?
Well, I don't want to log roll for my company, but
go ahead, log roll, my friend.
I know a little bit about AI and AI disinformation and many of the goals and techniques. I really don't like seeing articles like this because it's total misrepresentation of the goals of threat actors or bad actors. They are not trying to switch an election, and we know this. We went back to 2016 and 2020. The bad actors trying to influence those elections weren't trying to flip a switch or change the election. They had larger geopolitical and strategic goals. One thing that's
more
really
subtle goals, maybe, that wouldn't be so obvious as flipping election?
To reinforce views, sometimes to change views, but to play the long game and the big game. And look, let's not forget that there were billions of people literally that voted this year, not just the United States, but more than half the world's population voted in 2024. And when we looked at all of this. In fact, I just dropped in a link. We've been looking at this all year. We've been looking at election disinformation and the role of artificial intelligence. And what AI has done is the same thing in cybersecurity. And in fact, now we find almost all cyber attacks have what we call a narrative attack or some sort of disinformation that's tied to it, or a use of narratives. Ransomware is a great example. Naming and shaming. You exfiltrate data, and then you use that data to get additional information from your target. But what we see with narrative attacks that are targeted at elections is that there is not one big boogeyman trying to change things for the bad. What we have are agenda-driven actors who all want different things in different regions, different countries, different counties, different cities. But AI has reduced the distance and friction. It has made it easier to perpetrate agenda-driven activities at large scale very quickly. Sorry, again, that's a rant, and I always do this on the show, Leo. I go into these political.
It's your job, anyway, Dan. I mean, that's your. This is the story at Blackbird.ai. Vote 2024: the top narrative attacks disrupting global elections. Dan wrote this with Emily Coleman at Blackbird AI. So you're actually talking about this is actually quite interesting because it's the different narrative stories that are said about.
Yeah.
And their impacts. And I think that's very interesting. You also talk about AI flooding, something Steve Bannon calls flooding the zone with poop.
Yep. I love my former employer. I am very close friends with many people there, but they started a disinformation desk with fact checkers like every big news organization did. And that is a reading of 20th century geopolitics.
You can't fact check it away?
You can fact check, but many of these techniques are designed to flood, to make it, just like you said, it's too...
There's so much.
There's so much in the zone. You really, and that's another goal of disinformation. Well, to increase cynicism. I don't really know what to believe. All these politicians, they're just talking, and I don't like any of them. So I'm just not going to vote.
Now. It worked. Very much.
It also worked in Ukraine. It's working in
bit.
Taiwan and a lot of other places where disinformation and narrative attacks are being deployed.
So that's another really important point because we're very, unfortunately, we're in the U.S. Most of our contributors are in the U.S., so we tend to be a little U.S. centric. But there have been elections all over the world. This is happening everywhere in the world, not just in the U.S. Is there? But it's hard if the goal is nebulous. It's hard to say, well, they're trying to do this or they're trying to do that. What are they trying to do, Dan?
Well, there's no they. It's I say agenda-driven actors because there is no. I mean, in the case of, let's say, Russia and NATO and Ukraine, there is a they, and we know that it's Putin, and it's very easy to do a binary, a 1 and a 0, or a black and a white. Maybe when it comes to China and Taiwan, it's analogous. But look, no, this is deployed. You look at what happened in Bangladesh and in India, and you look at what happens, in small towns and in cities and in counties. It's not one they. It is many of us who have access to artificial intelligence, and we can create information that reinforces our worldview. And some actors are more coordinated and have larger goals, but it doesn't mean that it's one big boogeyman against the rest of us. It just means that all of us have to be vigilant against narrative attacks.
That's such an interesting perspective because it's, I think the way it's been framed has been that misinformation, AI or not, will sway people and make them change their minds. But I really like that idea of we're already so fragmented and we're already in our echo chambers, and that will really reinforce whatever preconceived notions we have. And instead of having factual information to back things up, information should always be factual. You now have misinformation to kind of back up whatever your worldview is.
I also think it's interesting, Dan, what you're saying about like this just kind of amplifying technique, like AI just kind of amplifying techniques that have already been used by, bad actors or, people out there with specific agendas and interests, because I think that's the biggest criticism about a lot of the fears people have about AI is that like, hey, this isn't necessarily new. Photoshop has existed forever, but what it does is that it makes those tools accessible to anyone. You don't have to have any technical know-how. You just have to know how to push a button on your phone the same way you would push a button to do anything else on your phone, and you can just generate an image completely from scratch and share it.
So key, Lisa. Yep.
I think that was our biggest concern about AI, was that it would just make it easier to flood the zone, that it wouldn't necessarily take any particular position, but that all the positions would have many, many more posts. Dan, does anybody study this? Do we know how many bots were disinformation bots on X, for instance? Do we have any idea?
Lots of people study it. I loved when you had Alex on the show. I thought
He's
that was
great.
such a fascinating conversation.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he left the Stanford Internet Observatory and works in the private sector now as a CISO at Sentinel-1, but he's still a great resource of information.
I think Renee DiResta is fantastic. I don't want to log roll, but my CEO, Wasim Khaled, is just do a Google search for Wasim Khaled and Fortune. He gave a talk last year or in the summer that was it's like 10 or 15 minutes, but it really frames this in a way that helps us understand our understanding of information is really based on facts, and facts are fungible.
Yeah.
That wasn't what he said. I'm paraphrasing, but it was just a tremendous speech. Again, I hate coming on here and log rolling. It's not my
You're
intent.
not log rolling. Everybody's on here for their expertise, and this is an area of your expertise, so it's not log rolling. It's just talking about something you know.
I hope would be helpful. Yeah, I really think Wasim is tremendous, and the speech that he gave is really it visualizes it. It helped me understand the scope and scale of the challenge of disinformation.
Interesting. One thing that did change very much, I think the number one source certainly for younger people is YouTube. YouTube viewers watched 84 million hours of presidential election day coverage on YouTube. 84 million hours.
That's what I watched.
Is that where you got your news?
Yeah, I have flipped between different networks on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, I watched on YouTube TV because I don't have cable, but I don't count that as watching YouTube. I think they mean YouTube videos, right? Well, maybe not. Fox News is the most popular broadcast streamed live on YouTube, setting a record of 1.14 million peak viewers. NBC News trailing behind with half that, 616,000 peak viewers. Nielsen reported the traditional broadcast and cable viewers drew 42 million viewers. So there's still a big gulf across 18 television networks. That is down more than 25% from last time, which doesn't surprise me. There's definitely some burnout happening. 56.9 million primetime viewers. Fox, of course, outranked all the other networks, 13 million of them watching Fox. And the digital platforms did very, very well as well. One of the advantages, according to Nazar Babemko, who's product manager at Streams Charts, it's not just about watching anymore. People are actively debating and reacting in real time, reshaping election discourse in the process. I guess that's where social networks like X come in.
And the YouTube comments section.
And I didn't even think of that. And chat and YouTube as well.
And threads.
And threads.
Well, I think there's like a couple of things going on there too. Like it's, for one, a lot of younger people might not even own television, so they're probably already used to getting most of their information and their news through places like YouTube because they're watching on their phone. Two, a lot of us have subscription fatigue, so even if you do own a television, you probably don't have cable or you might not have access to those networks the way that you had in the past. So I think those two trends are certainly a big factor in this. But also I do think this election cycle in particular, I think was so influenced by online discourse more so than many elections in the past. And I was thinking about this really brilliant piece I read by Taylor Lorenz. I don't know if you guys had a chance to check it out on
I saw it,
her website, User Mag, but she just had this great story about how, Republican right-wing influencers kind of galvanize these like giant audiences online throughout the election cycle. And it just, I don't know, it was just one of those things that I feel like was a really mind-blowing revelation. And this has nothing to do with YouTube, but in a way it does, because a lot of, YouTube is where people go to watch their favorite personalities, whether it's about politics, whether it's about tech, whether it's about anything. So I do think, I'm not surprised to hear that, election night viewing also happened on YouTube.
I mean, and it's going to be bigger every 4 years, right? I mean, it's just inevitable. This is where everybody's moving.
It's also just online. Miraculous that YouTube has, I mean, it's one of the few, I feel like, that's just continued to become more relevant over time. Right. And I do think it's really benefited from what Lisa mentioned. I mean, I'm in that second camp of people who owns a TV but doesn't have cable. It's never even crossed my mind to get cable. I'm going to be so honest with you. I just, rely.
Really?
Never. And I feel like I should at this point, because I don't want to have 10 different subscriptions for things I rarely watch. Yep. But, and there are times where I kind of wish I had, easier access to live TV. But YouTube's always there, and it's free. I mean, I actually pay for premium.
It's always there.
Yeah.
You have to, otherwise there's so many ads and so on. Somebody in the Twitch chat said, Pats said, Joe Rogan's interview with Donald Trump got 40 million views. Podcasting became very important in this cycle. Not my show, but other big podcasts became very important.
What did 60 Minutes do?
That's a good question. Of course, they didn't have
for
Trump
Harris,
on. They had Harris on. All right. We'll take a break. When we come back, big winners and losers in the election. There were some technologies that did very well. But I did want to mention, by the way, I don't know. 1.8 million?
7.8. Sorry to interrupt you. 7.
Fewer. That's really interesting. Far fewer than Joe Rogan.
But really great for CBS News.
Is it? That's a good number?
I mean, today.
I guess it is.
Have you seen what's going on?
Yeah. I used to do live with Regis and Kelly back in the day. And it was always, 4 million people were watching. So 7's good.
Yeah.
It's not, great. It's a fraction of the total. It's nothing like Joe Rogan. I used Perplexity AI during election night, and it did quite well, I think. It's something I use for search as well. And I wish they'd created it sooner, an election hub. I wish they'd created it because I had voted already by the time they created it, so I couldn't use it to do my research. But I think very cool what they did. And I don't know, did any of you look at that or before voting or during the election night coverage?
No, but they've really done an interesting content strategy maneuver.
They're not trying to be a chat bot. They're essentially trying to replace Google, right? As is, by the way, ChatGPT now, because they have search as well, although it's not quite as forefront as it is for Perplexity.ai. Perplexity.ai/elections. Let me just, it's still there. So I thought this was quite useful. A lot of information, including in my local races, which was kind of interesting as well.
I think this is a good example of something that AI is very good at right now, because I think there's also this perception that AI can do anything and everything because there's so many new products and services coming out. But I think organizing vast amounts of data so that you can present them more easily is one example of how it is actually useful.
Especially, yes, because you're pulling, it's what we call RAG, retrieval augmented generation. You're pulling from a known set of data so it's harder to hallucinate. You can't make up stuff, or you don't make up stuff because you're pulling from a set of data. Let's hope they didn't make up anything. My cursory inspection didn't see anything completely wrong on that. All right, let's take a little break. That's it for, I want to talk a little bit. Okay, it's not completely it for election news. I want to talk a little bit about crypto, because the crypto bros had a big victory last Tuesday. But first, a word from our sponsor. Abrar al-Heeti is here from CNET, where she reports on technology. Great to have you, Abrar. Lisa Edichico also works on that team, senior editor CNET. And Dan Patterson, old friend formerly CBS, now editorial director at Blackbird.ai and contributing editor at ZDNet, and just really a shameless log roller. Great. No, I'm teasing you. It's good. Bring up the stuff you know. That's wonderful. That's excellent. That's what we bring you in here for. It'd be better that you talk about the stuff you know than the stuff you don't know, right? Our show today, that's my job. Our show today is brought to you by Lookout. We have a big friendship with Lookout. I love them. Today, every company is in the business of managing data, which means every company's at an increased risk of data exposure and loss. I don't have to tell you, if you look at the headlines, cyber threats, breaches, leaks. And the cyber criminals are getting more sophisticated every day. And they're also getting faster. Modern breaches now happen in minutes instead of days or months. At a time when the majority of sensitive corporate data has moved to the cloud, traditional boundaries no longer exist. The strategies for securing that data have changed fundamentally. It's not all on-prem where you can surround it with a shell. It's everywhere. Enter Lookout. From the first phishing text to the final data grab, Lookout stops modern breaches as swiftly as they unfold. And that means everywhere your data is, whether it's on a device, in the cloud, across networks, or working remotely at the local coffee shop. Lookout gives you clear visibility into all your data at rest and in motion. You'll monitor, assess, and protect without sacrificing productivity for security. That makes everybody happy, right? Oh, and you know who will really be happy? Your IT department, because Lookout is a single unified cloud platform, which means Lookout simplifies and strengthens reimagining security for the world that will be today. Visit lookout.com right now to learn how to safeguard data, how to secure hybrid work, how to reduce IT complexity. It does it all. Lookout.com. We thank them so much for supporting This Week in Tech. You support us when you go to lookout.com. And if they ask, say, hey, I saw it on Twitter. Good stuff. Appreciate your support. Thank you, Lookout. So President-elect Trump did go to the Bitcoin conference, changed his mind a little bit. In the past, he'd said Bitcoin is BS, but he said, no, we're going to make America a Bitcoin country. He was very, and you know what? It was a smart move because there are quite a few Bitcoin billionaires and millionaires out there who I think supported it. Dogecoin and other meme coins also did very well. Bitcoin hit, $75,000 per coin. Meme coins surged on Wednesday after the election. There's a Doge, which, as you remember, Elon Musk kind of liked. Dogecoin surged 15%, Shiba Inu 6%, and Bitcoin got to $76,000. Why is the Bitcoin? Why are the cryptocurrency folks happy about President-elect Trump? What is he going to do for them? One thing he said he was going to do is fire Gary Gensler, the chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission, who's been a little bit hard on Bitcoin, according to the Bitcoin supporters, saying it's a security, prosecuting people for securities violations. I'm sure, Trump said it twice. He was going to fire Gensler. I'm sure he'll put in somebody. But it wasn't just Trump. For instance, Bernie Moreno, who is a Bitcoin executive, defeated the chairman of the House Banking Committee or the Senate Banking Committee. I'm sorry. I think that this was a very much a pro-cryptocurrency election. Yes? Nothing to say here.
I was going to say it seems that way based on the coverage. I'm not a huge crypto person. I don't follow crypto that much, but
well, you better start.
Apparently, I better start.
Bitcoin, I'm sorry, is now $80,000. I gotta find the password in my wallet. I could tell you.
The easy answer is deregulation. Again, it's likely deregulation.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I don't know much about crypto,
Sorry,
but
Lisa.
No, please. I'm just like adding on to what you're saying, but that's as a non-crypto person, that is my take.
Yeah. Deregulation, nobody saying it's a security. But didn't this is one of the things that puzzles me, because one of the advantages of regulation to the incumbents is it pulls up the ladder for new players, right? It's one of the reasons OpenAI and other AI companies have asked for Congress for regulations. One of the reasons Mark Zuckerberg at Meta keeps saying, regulate us, because it makes it harder for competitors to arise. Yes?
When I say deregulation, I'm using that kind of as a broad catch-all. The Biden administration has enacted more stringent regulations than perhaps the Trump administration would, but really what it is a signal to the market. And what we saw, of course, with the rise of crypto were a bunch of associated scams. There's just all kinds of, there was the core technology, the blockchain and crypto technology, and there are a number of less than desirable business people who are drawn to that. And so when I say deregulation, what I mean is that what we kind of saw broadly over the last 4 or 5 years was a number of state, local, and federal laws, not just regulations, but laws. And we saw law enforcement kind of go after the scammers. I think what we could see is a relaxation of that. I'm slowing down a little bit because I really don't know, but I think that was kind of the mood and the climate, and that has shifted pretty abruptly.
Yeah. Detroit has announced that it's going to accept crypto for tax payments. Now, one of the reasons Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies have had a hard time making it as a currency as opposed to a speculative security is that it's so volatile, and you don't know what it's worth at any given moment, not to mention gas fees converting it. Detroit's avoiding this because they're going to take the crypto, price it at its current price, and immediately convert it into dollars. To minimize the risks, this is from decrypt.com. To minimize the risks of crypto price volatility, payments will be converted to US dollars on PayPal before reaching city accounts.
So they're not going to be glass hands, hodl?
Yeah. not diamond
to the
hands.
Moon.
To the moon.
Diamond hands. I'm sorry, I got my hands mixed up.
Well, no, I thought you were making a play on diamond hands like they're not very good.
Yes, that's exactly right. I was clever. That's right. Right.
You were
I was
very clever.
Right. Of course.
You just didn't know it.
Of course. That's all the time.
Yeah. I didn't realize PayPal was a crypto exchange. So at PayPal, you can buy, hold, and sell Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, and Litecoin. I did not realize that.
I didn't either, but that's got to be strong for people.
Yeah. So anyway, this is an interesting move. Detroit is partly doing this because they want to bring blockchain innovators to town, right? Detroit needs business investment. Mm-hmm. Blockchain technologies have the potential to drive greater accessibility and efficiency, says Justin Onwenu, who's Detroit's Director of Entrepreneurship and Economic Opportunity. This isn't the only place where this happens, though. Apparently, Colorado, Utah, and Louisiana will accept crypto payments for certain public services. I think that's kind of surprising. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I don't know much about crypto, but I do think it's, good for Detroit for trying to figure out ways to,
Yeah.
But,
Rev the engine.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Get that one. See, you are clever.
If one were cynical, which of course I'm not, but if one were cynical, one could also say Bitcoin allows people to donate to elections anonymously.
Oh, you wouldn't be that cynical.
It's estimated, although we don't know, that as much as $100 million from the Bitcoin, from cryptocurrency fans went into the Trump campaign. As long as money is such a big part of American elections, there will be many ways to get around limitations.
Mm-hmm. This is bipartisan, though. I mean, a number of Democratic legislators accepted cryptocurrency perfectly above the board, but were pro-crypto over the last half decade.
Yeah.
I mean, in like a non-scammy way, or at least in ways that we don't
I don't
see
think
as scammy.
it has to be scammy. Right. So Sherrod, what's his last name? I don't know. I can't remember. Sherrod Brown, who is the chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, was ousted by Bernie Moreno, who was a crypto executive. More ad dollars flowed into that Ohio contest than any other congressional race this cycle. Heavy investments from the crypto industry. Some say, that was the key to Moreno's victory. He was losing in the polls until shortly before this money kind of flowed in. So the crypto industry got a Congress. I think the total number of members of Congress that were pro-crypto elected was 153, is a number I remember seeing, compared to a much smaller number of anti-crypto or less solid crypto supporters. What would be are the cryptocurrency community, do they want the United States to move to a digital dollar? Is that what they're going for? Is that a good idea? Okay, we're going to get off of this.
I
don't know. Enough. Anyway, watch with interest, because there's, was a lot of money spent by the crypto community into the election, and Brian Armstrong says the U.S. voted for 257 House candidates favoring digital assets. He's the chief executive at Coinbase, and says it is the most crypto Congress ever. So get ready. I have mixed feelings about this. I understand the power of blockchain, and I'm not completely convinced that in fact it's all about getting money into the hands of the unbanked. I think it's a lot more about speculation. Mm-hmm. According to Armstrong, Americans went to the vote partly to show their distaste for how the SEC have tried to strangle the industry for years. He said the country fully repudiated the work of Senator Warren and Gary Gensler, who tried for years to unlawfully kill our industry. The next Congress will be the most pro-crypto Congress ever. Stand with crypto voters showed up in force to help elect pro-crypto candidates in almost every district on both sides of the aisle. 257 elected in the House. This will be interesting. Stand with Crypto, which is an industry group, obviously, gave Trump an A rating. I think this is the next 4 years are going to be very pro-crypto. I don't know what that means. I think a lot of us in the tech community have been kind of anti-crypto because it seems to be it's empowered ransomware, right? It's become I think without Bitcoin particularly, ransomware would not have taken off in the way it has. It's been used to kind of for hidden payments, anonymous payments in politics. And I think often it's been used to take advantage of less sophisticated investors. People could put crypto in their 401k now. I think that's a terrible idea.
Sounds risky.
Yeah. But, I saw somebody on X say, well, all you people didn't like crypto all this time. You're losers. I'm rich.
Fair enough, honestly.
I'm rich. All right. That's great. All right. Let's take a break. We'll drop this crypto thing. We're going to drop it. We're going to go talk about AI. That's much more interesting in just a second. You're watching This Week in Tech. We're covering the week's tech news with Abrar al-Heeti, Lisa Edichico, and the wonderful Dan Patterson. All three of you. Great to have you today. Our show today brought to you by ZipRecruiter. We are not hiring at the moment, but there are a lot of people hiring. And when we were hiring, it was easily the best way we'd ever hired anybody. While there are many different types of offices out there, One thing's for certain, choosing the right candidate for any office is a huge responsibility. If you're hiring, and actually this is true, I will grant you this, and you want to find the best candidate for your office, you should do what we always do, which is use ZipRecruiter. The good news is you can try it for free right now at ZipRecruiter.com/twit. ZipRecruiter is the hiring site employers prefer the most based on G2. I'll tell you why we like it. The worst thing, of course, is when you get somebody gives you notice, because that's an important position, especially in a small company like ours. It always means we're going to have to work harder to fill that person's duties until we fill that position. So it's important that we hire somebody fast, but at the same time as you're working harder, you're also working to hire somebody. And that is a lot of work by itself, unless you use ZipRecruiter. Lisa will post on ZipRecruiter, usually in the morning at breakfast. I remember when in our continuity department, we got notice. Ashley said, I've got a job closer to home. I'm going to move. And we said, okay, we love you. We support you. But now we need somebody in continuity. Bad. Lisa posts it at breakfast. And one of the things that ZipRecruiter does, immediately posts your job listing to over 100 job boards and social networks. But it also does something amazing. It looks at the qualifications, the requirements you have, compares them to all the resumes, more than 1 million resumes, current resumes it has on file, because people come to ZipRecruiter looking for work, and then says, hey, here's some people that match your requirements. So Lisa posts. Within an hour, she starts getting these recommendations, and she goes, oh, this person's great. Oh, this one's great. Now, here's the fun thing. You can then invite them to apply for your job. And I got to tell you, when you're in a competitive environment, and most of the time you are when you're hiring, when you send an invite to somebody, they go, oh, they want me. They like me. It's how we found Viva. She's fantastic. How fast does ZipRecruiter's smart technology start showing your job to qualified candidates? Immediately. And then that powerful ZipRecruiter matching technology finds the top talent fast, so you don't waste time or money. And you invite the top candidates to apply for your job. That makes them apply sooner. It all just works. It's friction-free. It just works faster. I highly recommend it. If you want to find the right candidates for your office, you need ZipRecruiter. See why 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Just go to our special address right now, ZipRecruiter. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/twit. Thank you, ZipRecruiter, for supporting our show, for helping us hire the best people fast, for taking a lot of stress off of Lisa's plate. We really appreciate it. And thank you for going to ZipRecruiter.com/twit. That way they know you saw it here. ZipRecruiter.com/twit. Thank you, ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And thank you for giving us our wonderful Viva in continuity. She's been great. We miss Ashley, but we got a good replacement. This blew me away from today's New York Times. An AI robot painting sold at auction for $1.1 million. The creator, a robot named Ida, it depicts the British mathematician Alan Turing as the god of artificial intelligence. Here's the painting. Okay. Sold at auction for $1.1 million. The experiment was the brainchild of Aidan Meller. Oh, interesting. A-I-D-A. Aidan Meller, former gallerist living outside of Oxford, has worked with a team of nearly 30 people. You have to build a robot because you need something to hold the paintbrush, I guess. The robot is dressed like a woman with a bob haircut. Oh, you pronounce it Ada because it's in honor of Ada Lovelace, A-I-D-A, but it's pronounced Ada. Ada Lovelace, of course, the world's first computer programmer from the 19th century. Meller says, I'm trying to adapt to this slightly surreal moment. The painting, which depicts Turing as the god of artificial intelligence, was offered as part of Sotheby's digital art sale. They thought it would sell, I don't know, around 120 to 180,000, which if you asked me at the time, I would have said, no, nobody's going to pay 180,000 for that. It got 27 bids, was sold to an anonymous buyer. I'm going to bet a crypto bro. I'm just guessing from the United States.
Oh, to be rich.
Well, it might have been an investment because if you think about it, this is the first AI painting to sell at auction for more than $1 million. This is history.
It is history.
You can say, you could argue if it's a robot performing the action. Like that's interesting. That's novel.
It's novel. Is it good art? I guess it's. Here's a picture of Ada, the robot, with a bob haircut. And here's some other paintings. I guess should we say it? What do you think? What are her pronouns?
What might be interesting here is if you are a painter, theoretically what you produce is finite. You're only capable of producing so much, right?
Yeah.
But Ada,
unless you're Andy Warhol and you have a warehouse of people silk screening your paintings over and over.
And you'll never.
Maybe this is Andy Warhol. Maybe this is.
But people were very critical of the warehouse, right? Yeah. Of Andy Warhol. He was making a statement. He was saying this is the industrialization of art.
That's what Ada is, right?
Yeah.
Like the robot could paint all day.
And it'll always be the same if it wants to be. Like, I guess you could just hit a repeat button. I could do, like, as a human, you'll never be able to repeat something exactly the same again. I wonder if there's a way to, with AI, just be like, do that again. I don't know. Unless it thinks for itself.
Yeah. And do it in like a different color or different ways.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting because, and not to like play devil's advocate, like I do think there's a lot of really important concerns and questions around the creative industry and AI, but it's cool to kind of see someone embracing it in a way that I guess enhances their art versus, feeling like it's taking away from what they do.
So this is the process. By the way, Mellor is going to take the $1 million and put it towards making Ada better. This is the process, though, which is, I think it's almost a human-robot collaboration. So Ada, the software, Ada herself, this is all in software at first, interpreted a photograph of Turing, and then painted 15 individual paintings based on different parts of his face. This is all from the New York Times. The robot chose three of the portraits alongside a painting it is made of Turing's bomb machine, which was a device they used to decrypt the Enigma machine. The works were then photographed, I guess humans did that, and uploaded to a computer that used Ada's language model to decide on the assembly of a single painting, which was then completed using a 3D textured printer. Oh, okay. That seems cheating. This is a story from Zachary Small, so I'm reading Zachary's writing here. Studio assistants helped to create a more realistic finished product on the canvas. Ada then added marks and textures to the portrait to complete it. Mellor said Ada was supposed to prompt discussions about the ethics of artificial intelligence and how technology is changing our definition of who or what an artist can be. Can an artist not be a non-human?
I think it depends on how much a human was involved in like creating.
This sounds like a
robot,
human was involved more than I thought. Yeah,
exactly. Like even if, like, let's say a different example where maybe there isn't so much human intervention, like is coming up with the prompt ideas. Like, is that part of the artistic process? If you're, creating something that involves typing prompts to get a desired result to come out in a different way. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm twice as old as both of you. Bernito, you're an artist. You're a musician.
So I said this, I think, the last time we talked about the robot making art, making like a piece of art, is that like I submit that the robot is the art and not it's a robot that is the piece.
I think Mellor would agree that the art here is a human created a thing.
Ada.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's the art.
There you go. That I'm down
I'll give
for
you
that,
that.
Benito.
I like that perspective. Yeah.
Got us out of that. I was going to say that there's no art without a human.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think this whole, AI race has led to that big question of, okay, AI can do something, but do we want it to do something? Does it mean
Yeah.
something if it's created by AI?
Right.
And so that's why I like Benito's perspective, because it's like, okay, well, look at this really cool thing that a human was able to achieve. But do I want the product of that thing, or do I want something where there were feelings involved in the creation of that, and there was a lot of human thought? As a human, you're going to relate to other humans more than you would a machine. So it's hard to kind of, it doesn't matter how old you are. I think it's hard to wrap your brain around the fact that, AI could be create something as evocative as, what a human could do.
Right.
I think art is the one area where AI has like a long way to go before humans will not be involved, just because I don't know if you've ever seen, like, over the past few years, there's been like AI generated movie scripts and things like that, and it's all just so terrible and like doesn't really make much sense. I think there's always going to be a human orchestrating things at the very least, whether it's building the robot or deciding, what kinds of prompts to enter into a machine or something like that. At least that's my hope.
I use AI as a creative tool every day. I use it like Adobe Creative Cloud. I use
For images.
Not just for images, no. For to analyze intelligence, to I would say write, but you're right, Lisa. I mean, anyone who's tried to get AI to write for you, it's just garbage.
It's mediocre, right? That's the problem.
You can work
It's just
alongside it.
average.
So I work with intelligence analysts, and their job is not to be writers; it's to be intelligence analysts. So they will often give me their findings, and my most common prompt is organize these notes. But now I have a convoluted process, but I use the Claude, the Anthropic's Claude API. I create a prompt to help it create a prompt, because it will create a much better and longer prompt that I can then feed into other AI systems that will give me a little more, not better copy, not better writing, but a little more intelligible and useful. But this is a process. And often I've thought, if I had an editor, this would be a lot easier. Like if I just could hire a
human would do a better job, but not as cheaply or as well as
right.
fast,
But we're a startup and we just don't have the budget for that. But if I had a managing editor who worked for me, it would be faster and better. But I hate to say this, I hate this so much, but that process has kind of replaced the managing editor for me.
And a copy editor too.
And a copy editor. Oh my God. I don't have a copy editor. So I have to use Grammarly Pro, which is great. It's like a copy editor, but I so miss my copy. I had Jody at ZDNet, and she was wonderful. CNET had wonderful copy editors, CBS News, tremendous copy editors who always made my work stronger. And now Grammarly, which is a tremendous program, but it just makes my work tighter.
Do you guys still have copy editors, Brar and Lisa? Or?
Oh yeah.
Oh, thank goodness.
I was gonna say, if you're a publication, don't listen. Just plug your ears real quick during Dan's little there.
No, we need copy. I tell you what,
copy editors. Hire
when
them.
I go to a website, I know if there's a copy editor or not. Right?
Yeah.
Because there's typos,
1000%.
there's ungrammatical stuff. You can always tell when somebody has proofread and copy edited something.
Oh yeah.
Because when you write, especially when you're writing for a website, you're doing it fast.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And also, like, I love the saying that I learned once from a teacher, but there's no such thing as good writing. There's only good rewriting. But not just that, you always need a second pair of eyes, no matter who
Wait a
it
minute,
is.
wait a minute. You went right over that. There's no there's good writing.
There's no
Say it again. That's really good.
It's
That's
great.
so good.
There's no such thing as
That is
good
great.
writing, only good rewriting.
Oh, that is perfect.
Oh,
I know. Jot that
make a
one down.
poster.
Have you
Put
ever
it on a
written
bumper
something
sticker.
like a lead graph and then you come back a day later? You're like, I've written a lead and I'm like, that is so good.
And then you
That
come back
is-
and you're like,
and then the next day I'm like,
I know.
Oh yeah. That
So for
happens
those of us who
more
are not
often than I'd like to
journalists,
admit.
or writers, what does a copy editor do?
A copy editor will look over your writing, your copy, and sometimes it can be as simple as making sure that, your periods and punctuation are all in the right place. But it could also be, hey, I'm seeing like a loophole here. Like, I feel like this is something we need to address. Do you have a quote or any type of information that can kind of fill in this gap here? They're kind of the final check before it goes out into the public. And
Or if it's not a logical flow, maybe, or you left out.
yes.
Yeah.
things around. Exactly.
I see
here's
a
the
lot of
thing. I feel
movies
like-
where
yeah.
I feel like they needed a copy editor because there's a gaping hole in the plot here.
Well, that's also to Abrar's point. That's like what a really good copy editor does. I feel like sometimes copy editors really do just look out for grammar and punctuation because maybe it's a breaking news moment and that's all they have time for. But again, I will get off. I feel like we've been on copy editing for too long, but the copy editors
this is
at
good.
CNET
I
are
like
great
this.
because they do story edit sometimes too. And they're like a good, usually your editor knows what you're working on and what your story's about. So they might not catch something that maybe like the average reader wouldn't understand, but the copy desk will. So yeah, lots of love for the copy desk.
I was
Rad.
watching a TV show, Alfonso Cuarón's Disclaimer, last night, and there was this gaping plot hole. No spoiler, but there's a bad guy at the hospital who's about to kill this woman's son, and this woman is racing to get there to stop him, right? Then she's frantically texting her husband saying, "Don't let him in." And I'm thinking, oh, you just call the hospital. They'll stop him. Just call the nurses station and say, "Don't let this guy in. I don't want him to see my son." But then you don't have the chase. You don't have you
you
Kate
get no movie
Blanchett
then.
running
Leo.
breathlessly. There's a copy editor would have seen that.
Yeah, exactly.
Alfonso, there's this problem here.
I got to say, Rad and Allie at ZDNet, who edited the story that we talked about earlier, they both did exactly what you talked about, Lisa. They found areas of this story that I was like, oh, you're right. It really is not very good without these suggested changes. Yes, thank you.
Love that.
Accept change.
I did think that there weren't a lot of copywriters left. I did think that maybe it's just your big publications like CNET.
I have
and
heard
maybe
that.
the New Yorker.
I have heard that there are, some publications that don't have a copy.
How about fact checkers? Do you guys have fact checkers?
No. I wish we did.
I wish we did. I mean, we all fact check our own work, but it would be nice.
But the whole point is not that you can't do it, but just having a second person look at it is so valuable.
I think the only time we had one was back when we had the CNET magazine throwback. And they shut that down a few years ago, but there was somebody who would kind of go through and really make sure everything was, because it was in print, right? You can't change it once it's in print.
Right.
So that was really, really helpful. But I wish more publications had a budget for that.
I wrote, so the AARP magazine, because I'm old, asked me to write a column for them. I ended up not doing it because one editor said, "Can you make it more techie?" But his boss said, "Can you make it less techie?" And I figured this is not going to be a good marriage. But the one or two pieces I did write, I got multiple calls from fact checkers. And like, I'd say, "Okay, no, this," and I sent them links and stuff. And then they say, "No, well," and they'd follow up. It's kind of a pain.
It is.
It is.
But I
I've
appreciate
a publication before and have gone through that process as well.
Yeah.
I've had to in some cases share transcripts of my interviews for fact checking purposes, which honestly I still do it myself just because I'm a little bit neurotic and I'm
for everything.
Yeah. And it is helpful because again, having that second pair of eyes, sometimes as the writer, as the person that's closest to the story, you think, okay, I know this is right because this is how I found that fact. And I'm convinced that it's correct, but sometimes having another person to just read it that's not attached to the story, look at it is very valuable.
Can AI do that as well as a human?
Doubt it.
I don't think so, because I think so much of journalism that maybe people who aren't journalists don't understand is the way that you phrase something, even if it's such a subtle difference, it can completely change the characterization of a piece of information. And those subtle nuances, I don't know if a machine would ever be able to do that.
Yeah.
That's where
just my
art
opinion.
is, right? Nuance. Art is in the nuance.
I also worry about bias from AI, right? Because it's as journalists, we have a really huge responsibility to not project biases either in our word choice or what we choose to convey. And I don't know if AI is there to be maybe don't say that,
And then there's
I'll give you another quote. When I see AI paintings or AI writing or AI singing, I'll give you a quote from Joanna Machewska, who is a writer and an artist on Twitter. She says, "I want AI to do my laundry and dishes so I can do art and writing.
Yes.
Not for my AI to do my art and writing so that I can do my laundry and dishes."
Yes, I've seen that too. Yes.
It's a great quote. It's been around for a long time, since the spring, but
because
it keeps coming up.
If it's not making the things that I don't want to do easier. Why is it taking away the fun things? Like, I want to have fun.
Right.
I want AI to have fun. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
I do think it can be helpful for like learning, like if you're learning a new hobby or a new skill and you don't always know where to start, or if you're just like, like for example, like I used to play guitar a lot when I was younger. I don't play as much anymore, but if I pick up my guitar and don't know where to start, I can ask ChatGPT for like an easy chord progression or something like that. And then I'm still doing the thing, but I'm using AI to like help me figure out like what I might want to play.
I think
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I think what I'm realizing more and more is how AI averse I've been, because it's been like a stance for me of like, no, I will not consult AI for anything. But I love seeing these kind of like less apocalyptic takes on.
Yeah, I think maybe you should reconsider, because I think the key is not avoiding AI, but using AI in an appropriate way.
Yeah, for sure.
Almost always that's in partnership with human, right?
It seems like, at least in this case,
that's my stance at least. Yeah.
I saw an article about AIs being used more and more in medicine in hospitals, but for instance, in radiology, reading x-rays, but the doctors who do that said, but it's really important that the humans still be in the loop, that this is it's like driver assist. You can't take your hands off the wheel, or at least you can't take your eyes off the road, but you can let the AI do some of the work.
And I think that is an area that's so promising and has so much potential for good, because I've seen, reports about how it can detect things like cancer very, very early on. And I understand the doctors who are, obviously want to make sure that the importance of their work is still recognized. And we're in this really weird transition period that's only just beginning and figuring out how to balance all of that.
I have a friend who's a younger person and an AI enthusiast and a physician. And what I proposed to him, and I think he kind of liked, was there's two doctors kind of have two jobs. One is as a diagnostician, which really requires memorizing a lot of symptoms and their causes, right? And kind of getting it all in your brain. The other job is the human element of that, which is relating to the patient, finding an appropriate cure or finding an appropriate drug. And I said, I proposed that, but maybe the AI would be a better diagnostician, better at saying, well, here's the medicines and the treatments we use. And then the doctor becomes the arbiter and the translator of the AI's work. And he seemed to think that that was a pretty appropriate use of AI. He does use AI in transcriptions. I think most physicians now do. I know mine does. And he says you always want to review it before you memorialize it and make it permanent.
But yeah, I think that's a good example of like AI being assistive and not necessarily like replacing what a doctor does, but making their job easier. And also AI has been used in medicine for like a pretty long time, or at least the research has been happening like way before this wave of like generative AI, chat GPT developments. So I do kind of trust it a bit more too, because I feel like a lot of the stuff that I've seen, at least around AI in medicine, has to do more so with like computer vision and these other technologies that have been explored for a long time versus, generative AI.
A big victory for OpenAI. It won in court. A number of news outlets suing over OpenAI using their content for training. Raw Story, which was acquired by Alternate in 2018, sued OpenAI saying it misused articles from news outlets Raw Story and Alternate to train its large language models. A New York federal judge Thursday dismissed the lawsuit. Judge Colleen McMahon said that the outlets could not show enough harm to support the lawsuit, but did say you can file a new complaint, although she was, quote, skeptical that they could, quote, allege a cognizable injury, end quote. In other words, who does it harm? What's the harm? OpenAI said, we build our AI models using publicly available data in a manner protected by fair use and related principles and supported by longstanding and widely accepted legal principles. This was a lawsuit filed last February. They said thousands of their articles were used to train ChatGPT, and that it reproduces their original material when prompted. This was the crux of it with the New York Times as well. When the New York Times says, well, you don't have to read the New York Times. You can use OpenAI to write the paper. But it is pretty hard to get OpenAI to regurgitate its training material at whole cloth. In fact, you have to jump through many prompt hoops to do it. The courts ruled in their favor.
I think what's interesting is the judge essentially saying, you're upset about this issue of the copyright information being removed and fed into this, when maybe what you're really worried about is ChatGPT using this information and not paying you for it. So maybe that's how you should angle it. Which is interesting to see, them just point that out. Maybe that's
and I think that is a big part of it. Like Leo said, like you're not going to be able to get ChatGPT to like reproduce an entire article from, a website that you want to read. But what it does mean is that, this information, all of this like reporting and writing and research that the New York Times did is being used to create like an entirely different product that or to improve an entirely different product that has nothing to do with the New York Times.
Right.
So, or whatever outlet it might be, right? Because there's like multiple lawsuits in this.
Yeah. If you go to Perplexity AI's election site, you might be doing that instead of going to the New York Times election site. I understand they'd be more worried about that than it. Now, Judge McMahon, I think, really saw through what Raw Story was trying to win here. She said, let us be clear about what is really at stake. As you said, Abrar, the alleged injury for which the plaintiffs truly seek redress is not the exclusion of CMI, but the use of plaintiffs' articles to develop ChatGPT without compensation. They just wanted to get paid for it.
Yeah. And to that larger point that you were making about not just regurgitating the article, but the actual news and the reporting. I just loaded the Perplexity app. It just updated. And under the Discover feature, it is just a news website. It's for you, top stories, science and tech, finance, art and culture, sports, entertainment. So this to me seems like it is greater competition.
I should not admit this. I quite like Perplexity .ai. And I say that knowing full well that at some point it's going to do a podcast that will, as Notebook LM does from Google's Gemini. And at some point it might do a podcast that's better than mine.
Do you know Philip Rosedale? He started
I know the
Second
name,
Life. Yeah. He's one of the co-founders
Second
of
Life.
Second
That's
Life.
right. Yeah.
Really good guy, or very interesting guy. His son, to that point of AI creating podcasts, his son did that last summer. We were chatting, and we were having this conversation about like, well, it's going to take my job. And he said, well, my kid actually did something that's pretty interesting, and it is the top news stories of the day read I'm sure it uses 11 labs, but it sounds like a fantastic newscast. And this was a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
So
imagine what they're doing now, right?
Yeah, right. And just like Notebook LM, I can imagine that soon this show will be just our avatars swearing at each other, or mine at least.
It's my hope that it will be immortality for me, because I have so much audio and video on record, tens of thousands of hours, that somebody will use it to generate a AI Leo, and I will live forever. I'm hoping. That's all. That's my.
You are
no
your
Shakespeare, but maybe there'll be an AI. You don't know, do you? You never know. Do you think Shakespeare knew that people would be reading him 400 years later?
I think my 2-year-old is going to have AI friends, and
absolutely.
I think my recently departed relatives are going to. I'll have conversations with them.
Wouldn't that be cool?
I don't want that.
Feels very Black Mirror.
Grandma,
I don't want that.
It is totally Black Mirror.
Yeah.
There's a company called MyHeritage, and I've covered them kind of on and off over the years because it's very fascinating. But they basically let you upload a picture of your deceased relatives, and then they animate their faces.
It's
and then
so creepy.
They add voices to them too. So yeah, that's on the horizon.
They call it deep nostalgia.
Yeah.
I mean, give it
Deep
5
nostalgia.
years, a little advance of like, let the processors advance a little bit.
Yeah, we're getting close to that, aren't we?
Yeah.
11 Labs voices blow me away, and of course they've paid money to the estate of Laurence Olivier and others, so that they have actually some really good sounding
and they're
voices.
moving into content too. I mean, their new app, they just bought Omnivore, the Read It Later app.
I know. I love Omnivore. I'm a huge Omnivore user, and I was a little distressed. Omnivore was like Pocket, where you would send it articles.
Like Read It Later.
But
I think
then
what
I'm
they're
thinking,
doing,
well, wouldn't that be better if Omnivore, then I collected everything and made a podcast out of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's really what 11 Labs is doing is really innovative. We can love it or hate it, but it's really innovative, and it is content, and it's content that is somewhat meaningful or interesting. There's also, using these serif fonts, and it comes across as though it's newsy. It feels as though it was something created artisanally. It's a typewriter designed to evoke my feelings.
Look, so I understand why humans don't like this. Are we right not to like it? I mean, like, is this the end of the world, or are we just like the Luddites who didn't want Jacquard looms to replace their manual looms? Are we just fighting against the tide of technology?
I am, yeah.
Perplexity AI came up with a really good story, by the way. Hackers demand Baguette ransom. A ransomware attack. This is not made up. It comes from the Register and Yahoo News Malaysia. The ransomware attack on a French multinational, Schneider Electric, has taken an unusual turn. Hackers demanding payment in the form of $125,000 worth of baguettes.
Honestly,
that's very French.
Points for creativity.
Yeah.
Love that.
What are you going to do with them? They'll be stale by the time you get through them all. This is the Hellcat ransomware group.
So random.
Yeah, that was not on my bingo card.
See, Perplexity. See, although I have to say, when you read that, you go, "Oh, that's made up. That's an AI hallucination for sure." I will fact check it later. It's too juicy not to. I really I welcome our AI overlords. I don't think it's going to replace humans. What would be the point?
How are we feeling about? You remember 2 years ago, there was this wave of the first ChatGPT public release was available, and Nick Bostrom's profile rose, and we were all talking about immortality and like the robots. They're so capable. Now I really feel like it's just Adobe Creative Cloud. It's just another creative tool. How do you guys feel?
Right.
Yeah, I kind of feel mixed about it. Sorry, Bar, I didn't mean
go
to
ahead.
cut
Go
you
ahead.
off. Yeah, I kind of feel mixed about it. I do feel like there are certain things that AI can be really good at and areas where I do see promise. And then other times I feel like not only do the results not kind of live up to what we expect, but I also find that I have to go out of my way to like remember to use some of these tools. Like they're not very like natural yet. They're not something that I think most people find themselves using on an everyday basis. And for me, I write about phones all the time. So my first thought is like all of these new AI features we've seen in the last year, like do they actually make your phone better? Do they actually help? Or is it just kind of, are these companies just doing this just to say they have an AI phone now? I think it's mostly the latter, but there's a couple of things that are promising.
I want to take a break, but when we come back, I have an opinion about Apple Intelligence, which is slowly dribbling out to our iPhones. But we'll take a break and we'll come back and talk a little bit about that with Lisa DeChico, who covers phones and other things for CNET. It's great to have you. Abrar al-Heeti, who is on the same team, technology reporter at CNET, and a former CNET, ZDNet writer. Well, he still writes for ZDNet, which is CNET sort of. Who owns, I can't remember, does ZDNet own CNET, or I think ZDNet owns CNET now, right?
I think Ziff Davis owns everybody.
Yes, Ziff Davis owns both CNET and ZDNet.
But Ziff Davis is not the Ziff Davis I used to work for ZDTV. No. That's a different Ziff Davis.
It's a difference, but it's
this is ZDNet, which, but is it Red Ventures? No,
it's Ziff Davis now.
It's Ziff Davis. Is it Apollo?
Back to ZDNet.
Is there private equity involved?
No. Apollo is Paramount. Come on.
It's so simple, Leo. Come on.
I need an AI to draw me an org chart. That's what I need. Dan Patterson's also here from Blackbird.ai. But it's not an AI company, is it?
Yeah, we use and in fact, I would never say fact check, but if you want to check things, compass.blackbird.ai, compass.blackbird.ai. It's slow, but it is great. If you want to check the veracity of any claim, any image, a deep fake, a meme, anything, Compass will check it.
It checks it and says it's real or it's fake.
No. It's way more complex than that. It will give you the context. And we call it a context
claim.
check. Yeah. It's a context checker. There might be a sign up bump there, but I'll
there is. Is it used in industry or is it used?
Yeah, I can't. And I'm not on the business side. I'm on the editorial side, so I can't speak to that. But yes, it is absolutely used, not just in industry, but governments and large organizations.
How interesting. So it can detect AI propaganda, that kind of thing.
If you try to use it, and it's instantly understandable. Like you type in,
I think I have to pay for it to use.
Is the Earth flat? No, it's free. I'll give you an invite. Okay. Yeah, we might have something up for enterprise right now, but no, type in is the Earth flat, and it doesn't just say yes or no. It'll give you a paragraph or two that explains with links and context what you were asking about, and even complex issues like who's right, the Israelis or Palestinians. That's a really complex and heated topic. It will give you the context.
It won't say who's right, but it'll give you.
Exactly. With a deep fake, we are able to say, this is manipulated or synthetic media. But what our AI really does, we have a suite of AI products, but what they really do is find not users, not networks, we find narratives, we find disinformation themes that are crossing from chat apps, from social media, from the dark web, and we find how they are pushed and where these narratives go. Our artificial intelligence also works hand in hand with human intelligence analysts, so it's not just an AI black box. And there's a bunch of products on the site. Of course, I'm not in business. I am on the editorial side, but I'm at this company because I believe in what we do. I believe in the mission and the technology. And my day job is I work with AI engineers and I work with threat analysts, threat intelligence experts, and AI is at the center of that, but it takes a lot of collaboration.
Well, weirdly, I already had an account because
I'm out of logs though. I can't roll any more logs, so I'm just gonna have to splash that one.
I just signed up, and they said, "Well, you already have an account."
I might have put you on. I might have put Leo .
Oh, maybe you did
on the back end.
Okay, yeah. So I said the claim is Donald Trump won the election, and now it's gathering data to tell me.
Like I said, it might take some time. Compass is not fast, but I think we should expect things to be fast. Right.
Yeah.
I want quality over speed.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
In fact, that's one of the things that OpenAI is saying is if you're patient, our models will do a better job than if you want an instant answer.
Yeah.
Take your time.
I use Compass just as an editor. I have it open in a tab and I just paste stuff in there all day, every day.
Well, I'll come back after this word with the context of the claim that Donald Trump won the election. I can't wait to see what it says. I'll tell you something I do use all the time. Our show today brought to you by Mint Mobile. In fact, it's so funny. I've been going through all of my cell bills and cleaning them up. After we closed the studio, one of the things I also did is go through a bunch of stuff that I've been paying for all this time and saying, do I really need it? I choked when I saw my cell bill from the big carriers. Fortunately, there was one cell bill I'm not canceling. There was a lot less my Mint Mobile bill. The same great service for a ridiculous amount of money. I mean, look, I love a great deal as much as anybody, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks. It's got to be easy. It's got to be no hoops, no BS. Back in the day when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month when you buy a 3-month plan, I said, come on. But then I signed up and it turns out, wow, they're not making this up. It really is that easy to get the same service you're getting for $100 a month for $15 a month, $100. What am I saying? Sometimes a lot more. In fact, sometimes the hardest part of the process is the time you spend on hold waiting to break up with your old provider. Trust me, it's worth it. Do it. Mint Mobile is amazing. And right now is the greatest time ever because it's $15 a month for the first 3 months. Go to mintmobile.com/twit. All 3-month plans for every amount of data, including unlimited, are only $15 a month. All the plans include high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. I'm going to tell you a secret because I investigated. It's T-Mobile. So if you get good T-Mobile coverage, pay a lot less, get Mint Mobile. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan, whether an eSIM or a SIM that you need, a physical SIM, they'll mail it to you. You can bring all your contacts, all your stuff, just change your carrier on your phone. Or get a new phone and port your number, and that makes it easy too. You don't ever lose your number. I love all this. Find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile. Get 3 months of premium wireless service, $15 a month. How do you do this? Go to mintmobile.com/twit. Now, to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, you go to mintmobile.com/twit, mintmobile.com/twit. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/twit. $45 upfront payment required. That's equivalent to $15 a month, right? So you pay the first 3 months up front. New customers only, of course, on first 3-month plan only. Speeds slower when you get about 40 gigabytes on the unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. mintmobile.com/twit. We thank them so much for their support of This Week in Tech. This is the result from Blackbird AI of the claim that Donald Trump won the election. The claim that Donald Trump won the election refers to the 2024 United States presidential election, where Donald Trump indeed won against Kamala Harris, according to multiple reputable sources, including NPR and CBS News. And it goes on. Associated Press also confirmed it. This is great. So you could put factual stuff in there and it tells you, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I mean, it's a paragraph of context instead
it's
of
good.
Yes or no. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of context. Therefore, the statement that Donald Trump won the election is accurate in the context of the 2024 race. Now, if I said in 2020, I'd probably give me a little bit of a different answer.
It'll be more complex and more nuanced. It'll probably give you a longer answer.
I like it.
Cool tool,
Compass.
Note of that, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't realize it was free.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I don't need a freebie. It's free, right?
Yeah, it's free. It's not freebie for you guys. It's free. But I don't. We're not really we're not a consumer tech company, so we haven't been promoting it to consumers.
Too late.
And we've been. Well, I that's what I hate. I want to talk about cool stuff, but I don't want to be promoting a thing.
No. I asked you.
It's the journalist in me that's don't.
I know you're cringing, but it's okay.
But I mean, really, I was using this tool.
I admire your integrity, Dan. I really do.
I was just raised a journalist.
Yeah. You can't get it. You can take the journalist out of the magazine, but you can't take that doesn't work.
Yeah. The values are.
Here is it now. Okay. So I did mention, and I'm actually curious what you think, Lisa. Have you used Apple Intelligence yet?
Oh, yeah. I've been using it for a while in beta before it rolled out.
So I have a theory because it is, they rolled it out and they only rolled out 3 features, right? You got notification summaries. You get document summaries and bullet points. I think it has rewriting too. You can have friendly or
yes. There's the image editing tools also.
Are those out now, or is that 18.2? Is that already out? The image editing stuff.
You're thinking of Image Playground and Genmoji. I think that I just know this so quickly off the top of my head. Those are 18.2. But 18.1 has if you want to remove something from an image or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Google's Magic Edit. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what all the Android people say is, we've had that for a couple of years now. What are you talking about? But what I think is interesting is Apple is rolling this out slowly And at first, it seemed like, and I think people have said, "Oh, it's just because it's not ready." And Apple sold these phones, and promoted this, but then didn't ship it until a few weeks later. And 18.2 is, of course, rumored to be coming out in early December. And I think they're smart. I think I have a Google Pixel 9 as well, and I think when you get overloaded with too many new features, you don't use them.
Yeah,
you don't know about them. So they're smart. Just pick a few. I love the message notification summary. They're sometimes hysterical. as in the guy who we talked about a couple of weeks ago broke up with his girlfriend broke up with him, and the summary was something like, she broke up with you and she wants the stuff out of the apartment.
It's very clinical. Yeah.
but the guy said it was accurate.
No, I totally agree though. Yeah.
I think they're smart. I think that doing it a little bit at a time is, it's probably a lot of pressure on a company like Apple when you have Google and OpenAI and everybody and their brother and Anthropic pushing out all these features to say, yeah, we got all that and put it all out. But I think they're smart.
The one thing,
go ahead.
I do think they're smart, and I agree. I also agree that the message summaries are the most useful part so far. I just published a story about that like a couple of days ago, actually. But yeah.
I stole your
no,
idea.
It's okay. No, but it's true, and they are funny and inaccurate a lot of the times, but they're also good enough just to get the basic gist across.
Yeah.
But I think the one reason why, and this is kind of specific to me, I guess, because as a reviewer, I do feel like it is hard to really review the new iPhones and say whether or not Apple Intelligence is a big deal or if it's worth upgrading for when it doesn't feel finished and it's not completely out yet. That said, I do agree that for general users, it's not very overwhelming. It's, it doesn't really feel like your phone's very different. So I do feel like it'll make the learning curve a bit easier.
Right.
But
and not scare anybody, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think they benefited from the fact that they're rolling it out gradually, but I think it was really just them not being ready. Like, I don't know. I don't have any intel, but I just feel like if you're going to roll out a new phone, you would rather have the AI features ready to go when the phone is ready to go.
Yeah, that's true.
And I feel like maybe it will play to their advantage, but it does not seem like something that would have been ideal to just have this stage of okay, first roll out the iPhones, and then we'll do the first phase, and then we'll do the second phase of AI.
Yeah.
I'm a little
if they were ready, they would have rolled out at least the first phase at the same time as they shipped the phones.
I think that would have been great, right? Having that first batch, and then people are introduced to AI as they unwrap their iPhone 16, and then they say, "Oh, but there's more coming." And then you get the second batch of people who are buying for the holidays, who will then have the full picture of,
I think abroad to that though, what does it mean to ship? We know the iPhone launches on a day in September, but there's a whole window where people are upgrading, not just
we buy it the first day, but
I know that's the thing.
I'm still in my CNET mode. I have Apple upgrade program, and as soon as it comes out, I still feel like I gotta get ready to write about what I'm not writing about this phone. But I feel like much of the consternation about this was silly. How many times has Apple released updates throughout the year? This is pretty common. I really am not upset that I might get updates later in the year. I just don't understand why people were upset about this.
Well, I think the problem is that WWDC and the iPhone event were both so focused on AI, and it wasn't ready, right? So it's they made it a big deal. Nobody made it a big deal for them. Then we ate up the narrative, and then we're like, Apple Intelligence is coming, and then it wasn't there.
I guess I wasn't paying attention to those events like I was when I was a tech reporter. So, I mean, I was, but not I didn't watch them live.
But you're a more normal person now, Dan.
Yeah. I don't know, Leo. Come on.
Let's not go too far.
But I think I followed it like a civilian. And so that maybe that's why I just don't I don't care.
And that's
fine. I'll get some updates this year. That's fine. Yeah.
that's good.
I mean, to your
for
point,
them.
I don't think the average person really cares. I think, I feel like Apple is also a little bit unique in that they still have that fan base of people that like, they're not
That's
just people that
true.
are getting a new phone because they need it. These are people that want the latest iPhone, want the newest features, want to use them right away. Not everyone, but I do think Apple has that audience still, and a lot of other phone makers probably don't. So I feel like that's kind of maybe the exception. But I think the vast majority of people like do not care if they get a software update 2 months later.
Would it be better if Apple were like Google, for instance, or OpenAI? Well, I mean, I think Apple wanted to err on the side of caution. They were really afraid of, but Google really stumbled when it released its Gemini at first. It hallucinated in its demo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was an incredible demo.
It's like, dudes, it's wrong, like out of the gate. And so I think Apple kind of wanted to avoid that.
Oh yeah, and they're always very cautionary, right? I think that's why they didn't even announce Apple Intelligence until later this year, is that very cautionary approach of we're not going to do something unless we do it right and we do it better than everybody else. And it's still, up for debate whether or not they end up being better than everybody else, but they're going to work towards that and try to avoid any gaffes.
And to be fair, they're kind of copying what, at least correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't Pixel have a monthly feature drop? Every month Google pushes out new features.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. It's not monthly. I think it's quarterly for the
Quarterly,
feature
okay.
drops. But I do think the age of like there's one big software update every year is slowly fading away. Like, yes, there will still be like a new big version every year, but I think, like to your point, Google's already proven that, there's big updates once a quarter. I think Samsung, does that to some extent as well. But for Apple, they've largely stuck to that approach of like, okay, this wave of new features is coming with the newest version of iOS. But now with Apple Intelligence, I do think these like, dot 1, dot 2, dot 3 updates are going to be important in a way that they haven't been in the past.
What's funny is Google pushed out Android 15 a little bit early last month. I didn't see a lot of cover. It wasn't like iOS 18. It wasn't like, in fact, I don't even know what's the dessert it's named after. Does it have a dessert?
They don't do that anymore. I feel like they stopped doing that a long time ago.
Bad day.
I think with like Android 10 or something, they stopped doing that.
Oh, okay. Is it just that we are it's not a whole lot new that you can do? I mean, really, AI is the biggest new feature in any phone these days, right?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the interesting software features now launch like with the phones themselves versus like in Android 15 or, I guess iOS 18, but that's technically not true, I guess, because Apple Intelligence launched with iOS 18. But I do think it's more tied to like the moment when the phone launches versus when like the new software update comes out.
By the way, one of the features, and I think I gave it the credit to Apple for this, one of the features in Android 15, I was just looking at Google's blog, is the new theft detection lock, which uses AI to keep your data safe. If your phone senses someone has snatched it and is trying to run, bike, or drive away, it will automatically lock your device. You can also use remote lock to quickly lock your device from any device using your phone number and a simple security check. So, wow. Okay. I guess Apple didn't invent that. As usual, Android was there first. It's funny. Do you see? I'm really curious because we had an Android show which we canceled for lack of interest. Do you see as much interest as there used to be in the next generation of phones?
Depends on the phone, I think, for sure. But yeah, I would say we do. I don't know, Abrar, if you have like specific thoughts on this too, but I think everyone always gets excited about the new iPhone. I feel like there's always a lot of interest there. And then a lot of the bigger Android phones, like the next Samsung Galaxy phone, the new Pixel phones, people are interested.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it's
okay.
The big ones, the big three.
And by the way, we should mention that the hosts of All About Android, including Jason Howell, continue to do, they call it the Android Authority Show now, and they do it on the Relay.fm network. So if you're a fan of Android, it was nothing. We didn't we didn't cancel it because we hated it. We loved them, but there was just not a big enough audience for it for us. Here's something I'm not thrilled about. I've always worried about AI being given agency. Like you wouldn't want AI to control the nukes, right? there's plenty of movies about that and how bad an idea that is. Anthropic, it's been announced, is teaming up with Palantir to sell AI to defense customer. By the way, customers is plural. Is it just U.S.? Well, they say U.S. defense customers. So that means that AI will be used in warfare. Actually, it's already being done in Ukraine, isn't it? And in Israel.
As in the future?
Yeah. Is that a good thing? Here's what I really don't want. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. I don't want an AI to make kill decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely not. Like, that doesn't seem like a good idea.
Access to Claude. This is the announcement from Kate Earl Jensen, who's Anthropic's head of sales. Access to Claude, Anthropic's AI, within Palantir on AWS will equip U.S. defense and intelligence organizations with powerful AI tools that can rapidly process and analyze vast amounts of complex data. That's not saying much. This will dramatically improve intelligence analysis, enable officials in their decision-making processes, streamline resource-intensive tasks, and boost operational efficiency across departments. Now, remember, Google's engineers revolted when Google was going to provide this kind of technology to the defense industry and convinced them not to do it.
Yeah.
Anthropic was actually a splinter group that was leaving. Was it Google or OpenAI? I think it was Google. They left because they were concerned about AI safety. Mm. And here they are selling their AI to Defense Department.
Yeah, the article notes later on that the terms this can't be used for the design or deployment of weapons. But I feel like until when though, right? Because you start with analyzing data or information and say, oh, but this could also help with this next thing, right? This give them an inch, they'll run a mile. So I also get nervous about what are the future implications of this as they realize how capable it is. I also agree that I would like to not have AI be in charge of making decisions about whether or not people die.
Dan, is that happening in Ukraine and Israel now?
I don't know anything that anybody else knows.
Okay.
I think there is a compelling. I have heard. I'm not making this argument. I am not making this argument. I've heard a compelling argument on why you do want AI in the kill chain, and that's so that you are not. There is not a human culpable. There's not a legal chain.
That's why I have a firing squad with one bullet and
right. Exactly. Yes, that's
nobody's responsible.
Right. Very similar. Yeah. Similar rationale. I mean, I think that if we're hearing about a consumer AI company making a deal with the Defense Department, then this has happened a long time ago. I mean,
yeah, you're right. And by the way, Palantir is likely to be one of the recipients of a lot of largesse from a Trump administration because it's run by Peter Thiel, who was a very large contributor, along with Elon Musk.
And well, I mean, there's a really this is pretty interesting, and I mean, not for nothing, but law enforcement love Palantir. They love it. Again, this is not me. This is just an observation as a reporter and somebody who's been around it for a long time. Law enforcement loves it, including close people who I trust quite a bit.
What do they use it
for? This is the FBI. They use it for law enforcement. For the things that law enforcement want to use it for to track.
Do they use it for face recognition?
Yes, probably, but nobody has said we use it for face recognition.
They're actually
I think it's a big database that they can search. Yeah. I think they say they rely on it. I've asked to see screenshots of what they're looking at, and I can't get that. But my guess is that there's a really interesting thing happening. The FBI, which is law enforcement, really love this. At the same time, the FBI is about to be have an interesting come to Jesus.
Because of the new administration?
Yeah, we can infer a lot from that statement.
I should mention that Palantir had a very large jump in its stock value in the last 5 days. If we look at the 1 month trend, you'll see it was actually November. Well, it was interesting. It was kind of November 4th that it started to go up, but quite a large jump in the valuation. I mean, I'm not surprised, I guess. OpenAI spent a little bit of its huge VC funding. They I think recently got valued at raised $167 billion. It is the largest single raise in the history of venture capital. They have purchased with some of that money, we don't know how much, the domain chat.com. So if you go to chat.com now, you'll get ChatGPT. Last year, HubSpot co-founder and CTO Dharmesh Shah bought the domain chat.com last year for $15.5 million. So you got to figure he sold it for at least 16.
How much did ABC buy go.com for?
Oh, can you? Well, but that was way back when, right? I think the first time there was a big domain sale, I think it was $1 million, was sex.com. But what ended up happening is all the people who in the early days of TLDs registered those generic ones like news.com and sex.com and chat.com realized that generic TLDs weren't as valuable as they thought they would be, at least in the first few years. We've now proven them wrong because chat.com probably sold, we don't know how much, but sold for a lot of money. Shah sold it. He acquired it last year, and he sold it in March of this year to, at the time, an unnamed buyer. Today, in a post on X, he confirmed. Oh, yeah. That was
You guys all know who owns news.com, though,
yes,
right?
This is the common theme of the day. Where have we all been and or
I do know. Did CNET buy it, or did it was it smart enough to register it from the very beginning? I don't know.
I think they bought it, right?
You were there.
I'm not sure. I would say.
Yeah, you should know more than us.
Well, when I worked for them, they didn't own it. So
Okay. I think I heard that it was bought. That's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that conventional wisdom that the generic names aren't that good, maybe that's wrong. He says he didn't. This is his breaking news. Secret acquirer of $15+ million domain chat.com revealed, and it's exactly who you'd think. He bought it and then sold it. I wonder if he bought it for Sam Altman.
Well, that's what I was wondering. When did he buy it? Because like if
Last
he bought
year,
it around
not
the
that
time
long ago.
ChatGPT was blown up, then like he probably thought, oh, I could probably make a pretty penny on this. At some point.
Yeah.
Smart thinking.
Actually, he says he bought it for a project. He doesn't usually speculate and sell domains. But when he does sell a domain, it's almost never at a loss. OpenAI was the perfect home for this domain, so he decided to sell it. He's known Sam for over a decade. He doesn't like profiting off people he considers friends, so maybe he just sold it to him at cost.
That would be foolish. I hope he wasn't that foolish about it.
Anyway, it does work. I went to chat.com and there is ChatGPT. You know who else is getting AI now? And it's about time. Microsoft Notepad. Microsoft is very strange. For years, they ignored Notepad and Paint. They were just kind of the freebies that came with Windows. And all of a sudden, they're putting AI in it. Like, this is the next big thing.
I think my favorite line in the story was, in July, Microsoft finally upgraded Notepad with spell check and autocorrect. So you go from that to like AI.
And now it'll write everything for you. Yeah, it's got rewrite. That is wild. Yeah. Finally upgraded Notepad with spell check.
Is just put AI in everything. I feel like that's the strategy.
Maybe that's it.
Microsoft is pursuing.
Because they can. So why not? Yeah.
Look at that. It put a castle in Bliss. That's perfect.
But those are the two apps where it does make a lot of sense for there to be AI tools. Because again, like all of these things that we're seeing, whether it's Apple Intelligence or, something else, it's all about, the first wave of AI features that we're seeing is all about summarizing text or rewriting text or making it easier to make changes to a photo without having to know how. So it's kind of surprising to me that this didn't come to Notepad and Paint sooner.
Yeah.
And to that point, I saw an ad yesterday for Adobe Netflix ad. And I was like, okay, it's interesting. It's an ad for Photoshop. And it was a 15-second ad. And the only thing they focused on was removing distractions from photos. And I thought, oh, this sounds like a direct response to tools like Cleanup in iOS 18 or Magic Eraser, Object Eraser. So really interesting to see kind of more traditional platforms say, okay, we need to like show people that you can also do this on our platforms too, especially ones that you pay for like Photoshop.
Wait a minute. You have the ad-supported version of Netflix?
It just happened. It happened like a month ago because I had the basic plan that they phased out, the $12 a month one. So it was either upgrading to $17, $18 a month or the $6, $7 a month with ads. I've been surviving. It's not been bad. It's a good like water break time,
So actually I've never met anybody who has the ad version of Netflix. Happened. It's very successful, by the way. Netflix was really thrilled at how well this has gone.
And they're thrilled because they get ad money from it and subscriber money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, I'm kind of with you, Abrar. I don't mind commercials that much as long as they're not like too long, because I feel like I miss having that moment to just like stretch my legs or something.
Exactly. It's healthy, right? This is how you got to look at it. Yeah.
They hit 22 million subs to the ad version.
I mean, it saved them, right? Like this and the password crackdown, it turned everything around.
I'm sorry. That was out of date. As of May, it was 40 million users.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, it was growing fast. So tell me about it, Abrar, because I don't know anybody who has it. So they're all short ads? How often do they show up?
So right now I'm rewatching The Crown again. So imagine an hour-long episode. I think there are probably about 4 ad breaks throughout the hour. The shortest will be 15. It's not bad. Shortest will be 15 seconds, which is very, very short. The longest I've seen is a minute. So it's really not bad at all. And
do they just do one ad or do they piggyback a bunch of?
I would say it's about 4 throughout an hour-long episode. And they did a pretty decent job figuring out, because I was like, where in The Crown do you feel like there's an opportunity to like promote the
it's
new
not
Motorola Razr? Yeah, but they like found a way to like make it a little bit more seamless.
So the length of the breaks total,
I would say under 3 minutes, honestly.
Long enough to get a cup of tea, but not so long that you lose interest.
Exactly. And I think that's the sweet spot, is you're not giving up. And, it's over in the blink of an eye.
But remember, cable used to do that, but now cable is full of ads. So it's like, that's going to...
Podcasts used to do that. And now podcasts are full of ads.
It does feel like the beginning, right? It's going to ramp up. Yeah.
Well, maybe not, though. I mean, they're still charging you. So they're maybe making enough money just doing a few ads.
That's true.
I mean, it depends whether you think they're softening you up or this was all they needed.
You really think they don't want more, though? Like, you think they're happy? You think they're satisfied with Abrar's $7 and the ad money? You think that's enough for them?
Our rule is no more than one to 2 minute ad per half hour.
Yeah.
Which I think is okay. I mean, I came from AM radio, where it was literally 19 minutes of ads every 60 minutes. It was 1/3 of the content was ads.
Wow.
And that was hard. I didn't like that at all.
Yeah. Well,
and that's the risk, is you can get greedy and look what's happened to AM radio.
I was going to say, it's impressive that they had 19 minutes of ads to, people paying them.
Talk radio was. Leo, did you ever go to the Talk Media conference?
Yeah, I went once.
Michael Harrison.
One of the first ones.
Yeah.
It was at only because it was in San Francisco at the, I think it was a Sir Francis Drake, or maybe it was a St. Francis. Anyway, I remember going and saying hello, and the guy said, hello.
Yeah. I worked in AM talk radio, the talk radio news service. I was on political campaigns, running radio rows, running all over the country, hooking up ISDN lines, if you can.
Oh, yeah. That. Well, I had an ISDN line until, very recently, because that was the only way you could do radio remotely. And nobody, by the way, no talk show host works in the studio anymore.
Yeah. No.
If you go down to iHeart, where I used to work for Premiere, you go down to their studios, and they've built this facility with probably 10 studios. There's nobody in them. They're empty except for maybe a board op, but there's no hosts there. They're all working at home.
Yeah, I discovered
They all
that.
voice tracked it.
Oh, yeah, maybe that. No, and call-in shows, you have to be there.
Yeah.
You can't voice. Maybe you could voice track a call-in show. Come to think of
you
it,
could voice track that.
yeah, probably that show, the tech guy, you could probably voice track. But on the other hand, AM's kind of dying, so maybe that
Kind of
wasn't
dying?
such a kind of. It's one of the reasons they got rid of ISD, and the fact that the phone companies didn't want to support ISD anymore, but they were very, very expensive. And so we replaced, a few years ago, we replaced the ISDN line I had to the studio in LA with what's called Comrex, which is regular phone lines.
Yeah, Comrex.
And actually, nobody said a word. It was just using not phone lines. It was, you could use phone lines, but it was using the public internet. It worked fine. All right, I do need to take a break. No more AI. We've got other things to talk about, like Roblox, the big Roblox section coming up next on This Week in Tech. Our show today with this wonderful panel. I should, round of applause. Abrar al-Heeti, Lisa Edichico, Dan Patterson. Yay! Great to have you all. Our show today brought to you by something I used for years on the tech, speaking of the Tech Guys show, and loved for years. And I kind of got out of the habit. I don't know why, but I was so glad when they said, hey, we wanted you to talk about Experts Exchange. I said, oh, I remember Experts Exchange. You're still around? They said, yes, we're still around and still great. As soon as I signed up, I realized I'd forgotten how good it was, because here's what happened. A lot of this, so the idea of Experts Exchanges is a bunch of experts in the tech industry, trustworthy, talented tech professionals, get together to help you to answer your questions. Actually, many people both ask and answer, right? It's kind of a community where you can get help and give help. And, what happened is a lot of sites came along, like, well, I won't say names, but, a lot of sites came along where it was free. And I thought, well, it's free. I'll try that. But the problem with those sites is they were filled with snarky people who would say, that question's already been asked, closed, or we answered it over here, closed, or the worst one, well, you could do it that way, but personally, I would do it this way. Worthless answers, but you get what you pay for, right? Not Experts Exchange. The Experts Exchange is a network of trustworthy and talented tech professionals who can give you industry insights and advice, answers to your questions. People are actually using the products in your stack. Instead of paying for expensive enterprise-level tech support, go to people who are actually on the ground doing it. As the tech community, for people tired of the AI sellout, by the way, I want to say Experts Exchange, it's all humans, all the way down. They're ready to help carry the fight for the future of human intelligence. Experts Exchange gives you access to professionals in over 400 different fields. I'm talking coding, Microsoft, Azure, AWS, DevOps. Go on and on and on. And unlike other places, there's no snark. Duplicate questions are encouraged. See, the contributors are tech junkies who love graciously answering all questions. In fact, I really got an insight visiting Experts Exchange. It's the people there understand that the real reward for becoming an expert is the satisfaction at passing that information along to help someone else, paying it forward. And that's what makes Expert Exchange so great. One member said, I've never had GPT stop and ask me a question before, but that happens on EE all the time. Experts Exchange is proudly committed to fostering a community where human collaboration is fundamental. You can't have community without humans. It's about humans. The expert directory full of experts to help you find what you need, including many of our listeners. Rodney Barnhart's a great example. Hi, Rodney. He listens to Twit and Security Now. He's a VMware V expert. Edward Van Billion, who is a Microsoft MVP and an ethical hacker. There are Cisco design professionals, executive IT directors, and more. Other platforms, they betray their contributors by selling the stuff you've put there. They sell it to train AI models. Not Experts Exchange. No, your privacy is not for sale. Experts Exchange stands against the betrayal of contributors worldwide. They have never and will never sell your data, content, or likeness. They block and strictly prohibit AI companies from scraping content from their site to train LLMs, and the moderators strictly forbid the direct use of LLM content in their threads. It's humans. You deserve a place where you can go and ask questions, and experts deserve a place where they can confidently share their knowledge without worrying about a corporation stealing it to increase shareholder value. And humanity, all of us deserve a safe haven from AI. There's nothing like real human answers in a real human community. That's Experts Exchange. Join today, and you'll get 90 days free because they know, hey, you got to try this. So 90 days free, no credit card or anything. It's just a chance to see how great it is. Visit e-e.com/twit to learn more. Talking about three-letter TLDs, you know it's been around for a long, long time if it's e-e.com/twit. Experts Exchange. We're so glad to have them around to sponsor our shows, and we thank you for supporting us by going to that address, e-e.com/twit. On we go with the show. Let's talk about, I said I would talk about Roblox. Okay, I'll talk about Roblox if that's what you want to talk about. Roblox is banning kids from some of their spaces, and specifically the social hangout spaces. They're introducing changes to make things safer for kids after recent reports about child abuse linked to the platforms. Now, have any of you ever played Roblox?
Yeah. Download.
You have?
I don't play it. No, but I mean, you
have a kid, but not old enough to play Roblox, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I didn't download to play it. I downloaded because this has been around. Like these accusations have been around Roblox for years and years. Yeah. Also, the mechanics of Roblox are really interesting, and the way it's informed other games.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of firsthand experience playing Roblox. I do feel like it's more geared towards children, but I do think, similar to what Dan was saying, like the mechanics of it are fascinating.
It's got to be highly addictive, right? Because kids just is it like Minecraft? It seems to take
if you've never
create
seen Roblox,
your own games.
Go ahead,
it's a platform. It's more of like a gaming platform. Like kids make their own games and give them to other kids to play the games, and some games go viral, and so it's more of like a platform.
It's a place you make games.
Yeah.
There were accusations a couple years ago from a pretty good YouTube channel that did, they were all investigative reporters and created a YouTube channel. I think People Make Games. I think that's what it's called. People Make Games. But they investigated the payout mechanics. So allegedly, just like Benito said, Roblox is a platform much like Minecraft, except instead of building in one space, you can create a game. You can create a roller coaster game or something like GTA, or you can create any type of game and then sell that game or create microtransactions within that game.
So people make money.
And that was what was investigated. That advertising it to minors and also the payouts per hour allegedly were in the pennies. And again, allegedly there were a number of predators who would use it as a place to meet young people. It's just been a controversial platform for so long that it's fascinating.
Well, and you would think that this would be what they would have said all along, is let's protect kids, especially because COPPA. But apparently they didn't have any restrictions on how kids could use it. And now by default, users under the age of 13, which is the COPPA age limit, will not be able to play, search, and discover unrated experiences. So they have ratings and they can have suitable for children. This will ensure that parents and users have more clarity into the types of content. Is there adult content on Roblox? Second Life is.
I'm honestly not sure. It depends on, I guess, how they're moderating the content, if at all. Right. I'm not familiar with what kinds of approvals are needed to get a game published on Roblox.
Lou MM, who was a longtime host on our shows of This Week in Enterprise Tech, says kids can build their own games with 3D assets and Lua code. His 9-year-old has a number of capture the flag gates on there.
That's cool.
So Lou's a programmer. Games can get quite sophisticated, to first-person shooters to advanced games like Myst. So I wonder, Lou, he's in our Discord chat. Could you do it, or do adults, would they be interested? If you can write Lua, you could write your own games in there. Are there adults in Roblox, or just kids?
There are absolutely adults making games for kids there and making a lot of money off of that too.
And apparently predating. I mean, predators are on there.
To be fair, they're everywhere on every platform.
Lou says there is adult content on Roblox, including extreme violence and terrible language. So maybe I should start playing. I like Lua. It's a good language. I like it. They're also restricting access to social hangouts. It seems like they should have done this from day one. And free-form user creation experiences to users under the age of 13.
The thing is, I think it was like Minecraft, wherein it wasn't necessarily at the beginning meant for kids.
Right. So they didn't anticipate.
But kids glommed onto it, and kids took it, and now it's for kids.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I don't think it was designed for kids, but I do remember like years ago there being a lot of buzz around the idea that like kids can not only like, I guess, sharpen their like programming skills, but like kind of learn how to become a little entrepreneurial through this platform that was accessible to them. But again, like I don't know too much about Roblox. I just remember that being like part of the reason why it was like in the news cycle, like years and years ago, like early 2010s or whenever Roblox launched. I don't remember.
I should have paid more attention to it it's the biggest game of all. During the average day, more than 80 million people use it. That means more people log on to Roblox every 10 minutes than use Second Life in a month at its peak. 380 million monthly active users, twice as many as Steam, 3 times that of the PlayStation, 3 times the number of unique annual users of the Nintendo Switch, 5 times as many have bought the Xbox console in the last 10 years.
But I think that's the ratio of those numbers are the same if you look at kids' content on YouTube to other.
Oh yeah.
It's just because kids stuff they have time to do that the whole day.
That's true.
And parents often just let their kids do that.
That's the babysitter.
Sure is a good thing. Yeah. The funny thing is, Roblox has yet to make any money. It's very expensive to run, but it's very hard to profit from it.
I just want to say that I'm seeing a lot of hate for Roblox. Like I personally, I don't care about Roblox, whatever. I'm seeing a lot of hate for Roblox, but I bet you if any of you were 11 now, you would all be all over it.
Oh yeah,
all of you.
I was really into Minecraft when I was a kid. No, we didn't. We had stones and abacuses. No, but I loved Minecraft even just a few years ago. Run rate spending on Roblox. This is from a really good piece by Matthew Ball at matthewball.co. His headline, Roblox is already the biggest game in the world. Why can't it make a profit? And how can it? The run rate, the revenue rate, right now on Roblox, or at least when he wrote this in May, is over $3.8 billion annually. In 2022, Roblox users designed 170,000 virtual clothing and accessory items, 15,000 virtual worlds every day. Average daily users have grown 40% since then, so it's probably even more. Tens of millions of worlds have been created. Over 100 user-created worlds have been played over 1 billion times. One has over 50 billion plays. It's funny. I think the normie world and the adult world doesn't know about this, and every kid does. All right, I obviously have to play more Roblox. I'm going to make that my resolution.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Wow. Anyway, Roblox is finally doing something to protect kids. I feel like they should probably have done that sooner, but anyway. Speaking of success, Reddit had a very good year. Stock-wise, a 12% rally on election day lifted Reddit's market capitalization to $21.5 billion, making it more valuable than Snap, which is 4 times bigger.
They seem to have really put the controversies of 2023 in the rear view.
You know, I thought it was over for Reddit when the moderator revolt happened, and people were shutting their subreddits down in protest over Reddit's management. And no, they managed to not only quell it, but move on and succeed even better. They went public shortly after that.
Yeah,
Reddit
I'm curious because you mentioned like how well it's doing in like the context of Snap as well, and it's kind of interesting because I feel like, and I could be wrong, but I feel like Snap maybe isn't as popular as it used to be. Like during its heyday, I feel like it's been overshadowed to some degree by TikTok and by Instagram now that, Instagram essentially copied TikTok and Snap. But I don't know. I feel like I don't hear Snap mentioned a ton in like the social media vernacular as much as I used to in like 2016, for example.
When you were a younger person, you probably used Snapchat, right?
I feel like that's the funny thing about Snap is we were just talking about Roblox and how every kid uses it and everyone's like, what? Like, unaware. Snap is one of those things where as millennials, when it first launched, we were super into it. And then we decided that it was like uncool and we stopped using it. But Gen Zs love Snapchat. Like still. And that's the reason why it's still around. And honestly, like it does impressively well every quarter, it seems like, or at least every year or so. It's that idea that ephemeral media is still a hot topic, right? It's still, people still want to have disappearing messages for whatever reason.
That's what I want.
For
social media.
Want that. Yeah.
The one feature in Mastodon that I think is like, I don't keep any content on social. I used it for years, but I don't do any of it. And the one feature in Mastodon that's great is that it will auto delete posts. You can just set it to auto delete posts. Sorry, bro, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but
that's a new feature though, isn't it, Dan?
No, it's been around for a while.
It has. Oh,
yeah. I want every social network to have that feature, and then maybe I'll think about using social media again. But right now, I post stuff, and then a couple hours later, I delete it. Like I just post a link to here's my work, here's something I'm working on today, like and a link to a blog post.
Funny, I've lost that urge.
I don't use it
to post pictures of my lunch and
well,
updates
that's the thing with like ephemeral, like disappearing messages and stuff. It's like it still scratches that itch of posting something and getting reactions to it and seeing that people are seeing it, but it's also not there forever. So I think people get a better peace of mind with that.
Because
I think you have a right to control. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was going to say the digital footprint can be horrifying, but yeah, go on, Dan.
Right. You have a right to control your digital footprint.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of, when I stopped, it was in Leo, like I was in the Twitter beta because I was in audio and I used all this stuff years ago at ABC and other places. And I just found that like I had this enormous digital trail and it did me very little good. But it was owned by other companies, and I like that never really. I was like, but you make it very hard for me to erase this in bulk. Like I can't just select all delete. It's really challenging. And when I started looking around, in fact, I did a whole package on this at CBS News in 2018, like a long time ago. Like it's very, very difficult to delete your digital trail. And when I kind of figured out how hard it was or how like time intensive it is, then it was like, nope, these companies don't have my best interest in heart. They have their best interest. I'm not going to keep posting here.
Well, and now everything's being used to train AI. So it's like, okay, I guess
they want your content. You take it down. You're taking value away from them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not disparaging any one particular company. It's me, not them. But it's
it's not you. It's me.
I just changed my posture.
Yeah, and to your point, Leo, I think like that idea of you mentioned, you don't necessarily feel like you want to post, every little thing like your lunch or whatever. I feel like our attitudes towards social media have shifted where it felt like there was just like when these things roll out, you're like, I want to post everything on Instagram. And now you're like, I'm being very selective about what I post on Instagram for whatever reason, whether it's privacy or feeling like it's not going to get enough attention or likes or whatever it is. And so then to Lisa's point, I think that idea of the ephemeral media kind of scratching that itch without it being like, this is who I am forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
That's why platforms like Snap, or to bring it back to that, are so popular still. We just don't necessarily hear about it as much, maybe within our circle.
When you post to Snap, you're posting to a specific group of friends, though, right? It's not a public, or is it a public post?
It's to your friends, or you could DM somebody, essentially.
It's not like Twitter where you're saying, hey, world, here's what I had for lunch.
If you are a persona, then maybe. And I think some people do.
If you're DJ Khalil, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But
shows how out of date I am. I don't know who's big on Snap anymore.
Well, sometimes I get random recommendations for people who are in my contacts, but I don't use Snap. I don't really post anything, but I check it every now and then. But it'll be people in my contacts who I guess are posting publicly because it has the option to add them as a friend on there. So there must be something. Again, this is not something I've used in like 6 years, but maybe there is a way to still be somewhat public on there.
I need to get some younger hosts on this show.
We're out of date here.
I need some 14-year-olds.
You remember the first iPod. We're too old.
I used to ask my kids, but they're in their 30s now. It's like, no, that's not going to work. I'm going to ask Dan's kid. How old is your baby now?
She's 2. And in fact, at some point, she might need to go to bed. But she's 2, and we watched the Dino show.
We're almost done here. I just was curious what you're going to do when she gets to 12 and wants to be on these things.
Yeah, I think about this, especially with AI. And I do think about like AI relationships and AI friends. I think about that as like perhaps a way for her to interact with her relatives. Yeah. I don't know.
Fortunately, you have a while to figure this out.
I don't know. My wife and I are pretty private people when it comes to, so I hope we teach those values to her. I don't know. You just parent. Like there is no trick. Just be a parent.
Right. No, and nor are there any rules. Yeah.
There is a lot of privilege in that statement, though. There's a lot of privilege. I am a white man who works in New York City. I make a salary. It is harder for some people to parent as often or in the same ways as I do.
Right. Canada has ordered the shutdown of TikTok's Canadian business, but they're not blocking the app.
Interesting.
I wonder if this is a couple of days after the election. I wonder if what's going to happen in the U.S. with TikTok.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
me too.
Because Trump has gone back and forth. He was the first to suggest banning it back when he was president.
Yeah.
Now he likes it, but I wonder if when he's president again, he will, because it's Chinese, he won't want to ban it again. This is why Canada is banning it. The government innovation minister Francois Philippe Champagne, perfect name, says. Mr. Champagne says the government is taking action to address the specific national security risks related to ByteDance's operations in Canada to the establishment of TikTok Technology Canada.
Spectacular accent. I
was going to say, that was pretty good.
I don't know how he talks. So they have like CFIUS in the United States, the Committee on Foreign Investment in the U.S. They have the government can assess political risks in Canada to national security from foreign investments. But they're not going to shut down the app. Maybe that's what the U.S. needs to do. I don't think that solves the privacy issue, though, right?
It definitely doesn't. It makes it look like it solves the privacy issue if they ban.
It's the opposite.
But it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just as people who are against this have said, there need to be measures that protect people's data from being still, given to third parties. And getting rid of TikTok does not solve that problem at all.
The Canadian government, like the U.S. government, bans TikTok from government-issued devices. Mm-hmm. TikTok says it will challenge the order in court. Shutting down TikTok's Canadian offices and destroying hundreds of well-paying local jobs is not in anyone's best interest. And today's shutdown order will do just that. Of course, the clock is tick-tocking in the U.S., because they have until January 19th, one day before Inauguration Day, to sell TikTok or face a ban.
I almost forgot that deadline was coming up with everything else going on.
I mean, that's a thing. That's why I feel like I don't know if a TikTok ban would go into effect that soon, because
it's so weird that it's January 19th, and this was a long time ago, months ago, but it's kind of weird. Like they knew, on January 20th, everything changes.
Yeah. They were preparing for that just in case, and here we are. So I don't know. TikTok doesn't seem like it plans on selling anything, and I don't know if the U.S. government would really go through with that. It's going to cause a lot of uproar if they do. So I don't know if that's going to happen.
Let's begin to wrap this up, because Dan's got an appointment with strained broccoli or something. What? She's not eating. She's eating human food now, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. Pizza, everything. Yeah.
Pizza. That's human food.
She's just. It's bedtime, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll one last ad, and then we'll wrap things up with what a great panel. It's so nice to have you on here. Dan Patterson from Blackbird.ai. He also is a contributing editor at ZDNet. Now part of the CNET family, or I can never remember. CNET's part of the ZDNet family, I think. Lisa Chico working in the ZDNet family at CNET, senior editor. And, of course, her friend and colleague, Abrar al-heeti from CNET as well. We didn't plan it like an all CNET get-together or anything. It just happened.
Sponsored by, no, just kidding.
Brought to you by... actually, it's brought to you this week by ExpressVPN. I probably don't need to explain why you want a VPN. You don't need it all the time. But with ExpressVPN, you could run it all the time if you want, because ExpressVPN is so fast, you really won't notice a slowdown. The thing is, unfortunately, there are 3 reasons you need a VPN. You know about security. A VPN encrypts everything going out of your computer or your phone into the public internet, encrypts it right to the server, and then your data emerges in the public internet on this anonymous server somewhere out in the world. So security for sure. We were talking when Alex was on, Stamos was on, about how easy it is, for instance, for a bad guy to impersonate your home Wi-Fi on a public Wi-Fi network. You're at a coffee shop, so that your computer goes, "Oh, we're home," and joins his malicious access point. That's really easy to do unless you're running a VPN. Then they can't even see you. They don't know what your home access point is. There's also, though, another reason you might want to use it for privacy. Your internet service provider can see everything you're doing. So can your carrier when you're on your phone. So can the Starbucks when you're on Starbucks. That means they know all the sites you're visiting, and believe me, they collect that information and sell it on. But they can't see it when you're running ExpressVPN. So that's a second reason. There's a third reason, though, we don't talk enough about, which is with ExpressVPN, you are located wherever you emerge onto the public internet, wherever that server is, and ExpressVPN has servers all over the world. So that's useful. For instance, let's say you've seen The Crown over and over again. You're looking for something new on Netflix. Netflix has about 6,000 titles available in the US, 18,000 titles global, 3 times that number. You're missing out on thousands of great shows unless you use ExpressVPN. It's the only one I use, ExpressVPN. Here's how it works. You fire up ExpressVPN, and you'll see a big button on your phone, on your laptop, on your desktop. You can even put it on your router, by the way. And when you fire it up, you can choose what country you're in. Normally, it will just automatically choose the closest server, but you can be anywhere. Let's say you want to watch Yellowstone. It's coming back tonight. I'm very excited. You can't watch that on Netflix in the US, but if you're in Germany or Greece, use ExpressVPN to make yourself in Germany or Greece, and now you've got Yellowstone. They have servers now in over 100 countries. And because they invest in their network, it's fast enough to watch HD video. So, security? Yes. Privacy? Yes. Watching content on Netflix, Disney+, BBC iPlayer in other countries? Yes. That's ExpressVPN. And by the way, they protect your privacy. They go the extra mile to make sure they do no logging. And I've been seeing a lot of conversations over the last week about people saying, how can I protect myself if I want to, be on the internet and nobody can see what I'm up to? Very important. Choose a VPN service that doesn't log, like ExpressVPN. They do it 2 different things to make sure that you're completely private. When you use ExpressVPN, you log in through a trusted server that's running in RAM on that server without ability to write to the hard drive. It's completely sandboxed. And by the way, third-party audits have again and again affirmed this. So, and as soon as you close your ExpressVPN connection, it goes away. There's no trace of your visit. But as if that weren't enough, ExpressVPN also uses a custom Debian distribution that erases the hard drive and rewrites itself every morning when they reboot. So even if there was something or were something about you on that hard drive, it's gone the next day. I like it because ExpressVPN is absolutely committed to your privacy. Believe me, I wouldn't travel anywhere without ExpressVPN. So it's the best VPN out there because it works on all your devices, your phone, your laptop, your tablet, fast speeds, rated number 1 by top tech reviewers on places like The Verge, and I know CNET. It keeps you private, keeps you secure, and it's a very fair price. I want you to try it out. Take advantage of ExpressVPN's Black Friday Cyber Monday offer to get the absolute best VPN deal you'll find all year. Yes, use our special link. You're going to get 4 extra months with a 12-month plan, 6 extra months when you sign up for 2 years, absolutely free. Go to expressvpn.com/twit. You got to go there, though. expressvpn.com/twit to get an extra 4 or even 6 months of ExpressVPN for nothing when you sign up for a 12 or 24-month plan. It really is the way to go. expressvpn.com/twit. Thank you, ExpressVPN. We appreciate your support. Let's see. There were a bunch of other stories, but I'm not going to worry about them because baby's got to go to bed.
Oh, geez.
And by baby, he means all of us, because last night I went to bed at 8. I don't know.
Yeah, I noticed my bedtime's moving.
There you
go.
So I'm on the West Coast, though. So Dan and Lisa, you actually have permission to go to bed.
Yeah, I was going to say it is almost 8 here.
Yeah. Where are you, Lisa?
I'm in New York.
New York. And Dan's in New York. And Abrar, you're in the Bay Area? I can't remember. Yeah.
I am in Oakland, yes.
Awesome.
I would invite you to our studio, but there's no one there.
I'm glad I got to see it while you still had it. That was
you got to visit once, which was really nice. At least once. I was there when you visited. Yeah. If you ever want to come to the attic, you can. I have a cat bed if you want to bring your cat, all that stuff.
I need a cat cameo. Why did we not have a cat cameo on this episode?
I have a cat camera, but unfortunately, the cat, here, I'll show you. The cat's never in the bed. I don't know why. The cat's got a bed. It's just waiting for her, but she doesn't like it.
Oh.
I got this idea from Anthony Nielsen, who's one of our producers, who always, every time he's on a call with us, he's got a kitty cat here.
I love that.
I know.
Your lighting is incredible, too. How fun. Your cat is missing out. I would be there.
Yeah, I know. Well, come over, have a cup of coffee.
Thank you.
You can
hang
visit.
out in the cat bed.
We have a special chair for visitors.
It rotates for whatever.
Yeah, the chair's right here.
Oh, there's an actual chair. Okay,
it's the old Dr. Evil chair that we had.
That's right.
Before. I don't know. I got all these extra cameras and all this extra set, but there's just me. So I just always stay on single. Oh, well. Dan Patterson, Blackbird.ai, where he's editorial director. And now that I've got my account set up, I'm going to use this more. Thank you.
It's useful.
You can read his stuff there or on ZDNet from time to time, where he's a contributing editor. Thank you, Dan. Always a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. I always love being here. And thank you, Lisa and Abrar. It was great talking to you. And Benito, thanks for
the great Benito Gonzalez,
help.
our editor and producer, and Booker and everything else. He does it all.
Yeah.
Do you ever use that manual typewriter behind you?
I have.
Yeah.
I've tried to get a ribbon in it, but I think it's a relic. But I've tried. I learned on a manual typewriter.
I just saw somebody, where was it? Maybe on Microblog or Mastodon, who bought like 1,000 feet of typewriter ribbon. I guess you can roll your own. That's going a little too far. That's extra manual.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you to Abrar al-Heeti. Always a pleasure to have you on. She works at CNET, and she is Abrar al-Heeti on Instagram. So you do post stuff on Instagram.
I do. Instagram and TikTok are my favorite. TikTok is completely unserious, but Instagram I try to actually.
Do you have a TikTok account?
I do. It's also Abrar al-Heeti. Again, it has nothing to do with my actual job. So it's a lot of Taylor Swift.
I'm going to follow you.
And a lot of random memes that I feel like making. So yeah, feel free. It's a nice change of pace, but I'm a little too addicted to it, but it's fun.
We are now, maybe you didn't know this, but we now stream on TikTok. So we have an audience on 1,249 people watching us right now.
That's amazing. Hello, TikTok friends.
Discord, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter /X, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Kick. Wow.
Everywhere. I love
everywhere.
It's great. Also like TikTok is a streaming live on TikTok is a great move. So I'm glad you're doing it.
Oh, I think it's really been good for us. I keep getting comments like, he's still alive? I used to watch him on Tech TV and things
Well, if
like
it makes
that.
you feel better when people hear that I work at CNET, they say, "Oh, it's still around." So
Yeah,
I don't know,
that's
it's
pretty
all the
much.
same. Yeah.
We're the old timers. And of course, when you work at CNET, you work with the wonderful Lisa Edichico, who's a senior editor at CNET. Is it just phones you cover, or many other things?
Many other things. I
Many
mean, I don't know. Everything's related to your phone these days. So
It
can argue
is.
that every story is about your phone.
If you think about it, it is the primary computing device now, right?
Yeah.
We started the show with the iPod, and now we're ended with the primary computing device, your iPhone. It's kind of amazing. Thank you for being here, Lisa, Abrar, Dan. Thanks to all of you for watching. All 1,249 of you who watched live, and all the thousands, tens of thousands will be watching after the fact. If you want to watch live, we do the show Sunday afternoon starting at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2200 UTC. And as I mentioned, you can watch it on all of those streams. Of course, if you're a club member, that's the best way to watch, because you're surrounded by other really smart, interesting, vibrant, and exciting people. If you're not yet a member of the club, it's $7 a month. I mean, mostly we want you to do it because it supports what we're doing. Ads are not enough to keep doing what we're doing. A significant portion now of our revenue comes from the club. Thank you, club members. We really couldn't do what we do without you. But you get some benefits, ad-free versions of all the shows, so you don't have to listen to ads. It's kind of like Netflix, right? You don't have to listen to the ads. You also get access to the Club Twit Discord, a great community. You can watch live in the Discord as well with the other club members. You also get specials. We do a lot of specials. Chris Marquardt's photo segment we do now every month. We have a coffee segment that we've been starting to do, and that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do a coffee tasting next time with Mark Prince, the coffee geek. Stacy Higginbotham does a book club. Micah does a crafting corner. I'm going to start doing some coding because we're getting ready for the advent of code December 1st. There's a lot of fun stuff in there. We invite you to join the club because we really appreciate your support. By the way, we now offer 2 weeks free, so if you just want to see what it's like, you can do that. And there's a way you could do it for free forever. When you join the club, you're going to get a special code that you can put on your socials, on your TikTok, on your Insta, and everybody who joins using that code will get you a free month. So if you do it right, you'd never have to pay again. Find out more, twit.tv/clubtwit. What else? Oh, after the fact, you can watch the show on our website, twit.tv. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to This Week in Tech. But the best thing to do would be subscribe, and that way you'll get it automatically in your inbox, and put it on your iPod, and you can listen when you drive your Duesenberg to work in the future. You'll find links on our website, but you can also just look for This Week in Tech or Twit in your podcast player. All of them know about Twit. Subscribe right there. Audio or video, your choice. Thanks, everybody, for watching episode 1005. Another Twit is in the can. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Amazing.